Immortal Cultivation. I run an internet cafe in another world. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 476, The Owner's Hospitality. After hearing what Luan Hong said, the Luan family became even more curious about the identities of Bai Luo and his friends. Anyway, we are just guessing now, but I'm really curious about the strength of those people. Didn't you just say that they appeared nearby? Then I will send someone to look for them and see if I can find any clues about them. I will wait and see where these people came from. On the other side, Bai Luo and our Angzu had already arrived at the suburbs. In fact, they just came from here. They wanted to find a better place to stay in the inn, but they didn't expect the people here to be so unwelcome to them, and they negotiated a very high price. But since something happened there just now, Bai Luo didn't plan to stay there. After that incident, Bai Luo immediately brought our Angzu to the suburbs. There were fewer people in the suburbs, and Bai Luo found that there were no inns outside. After walking for a while, Bai Luo was a little skeptical about whether there was a place to stay in the suburbs. Fortunately, after a while, Bai Luo saw an inn in front of him. However, when he looked at it from the outside, Bai Luo was shocked by the degree of damage to the inn. It looked a bit shabby. Yao Yangzu, who was standing by, also noticed this problem, but she didn't say much. Bai Luo smiled awkwardly. Let's go over and take a look. After all, we have nowhere to live now. If we can find a place to stay, it would be pretty good. Yao Yangzu nodded and then immediately followed Bai Luo to the inn. It's just that the decoration inside the inn is even more old. After seeing the merchants in the inn, Bai Luo immediately discovered that the owner of the inn was actually from the south. There are actually southerners who open shops in the north. They were entertained by a woman, and Bai Luo then asked them about the price. Sure enough, southerners will not bully southerners, so the price here is very reasonable. But the environment inside is really hard to describe. Before Bai Luo sat down, he heard the voice of the system echoing in his mind. This place is really shabby. I've never seen such a bad place before. After hearing what the system said, Bai Luo didn't know how to answer for a moment. But for Bai Luo, having a place to stay now is already very good. As for the environment, he doesn't have much requirements. But Bai Luo is a little worried about our Angzu beside him. After all, our Angzu should not have suffered such hardship since she was a child. So Bai Luo looked at our Angzu beside him. Our Angzu also guessed Bai Luo's thoughts and immediately took the initiative to speak. I'm fine. I said before that, since I decided to come here by myself, I can endure any hardship. After hearing what our Angzu said, Bai Luo was relieved. Then he took out some silver and paid it to the proprietress here. Because Bai Luo and his friends didn't know the situation here very well, and they encountered some things today, Bai Luo planned to stay here for a while. Alas. Speaking of which, my store hasn't been open for a long time. You are the first customers in the past few months. Thank you so much. Maybe you can bring me wealth and help increase the popularity of my small store. How about this? To thank you for coming, I will pay for all the meals tomorrow. Bai Luo had just paid and was about to leave, but he didn't expect the proprietress to sigh and say something very sincere, not like she was fooling Bai Luo and his friends. Yao Yangzu on the side was also a little confused. She had stayed in many inns, but had never seen such a hospitable proprietress. Every inn wanted to make more money, but this proprietress actually treated them to a meal without spending money. Bai Luo was very happy when he saw this good thing. After all, this inn was really shabby, but the words from the proprietress made him feel more sympathetic. Life is really not easy. Whether it is a worker or a businessman, they are all running around for some money. Especially for businessmen, if no one patronizes, it will be a big loss. The boss lady is not only beautiful, but also so enthusiastic. The business will surely become more and more prosperous. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. Bai Luo just instinctively praised her. He was polite and didn't observe the boss lady carefully at all. He just said it casually. Who knew that Yangzu, who was standing by, glared at Bai Luo fiercely after hearing it, as if warning Bai Luo not to praise other women for their beauty. Yangzu's move made Bai Luo take a breath of cold air instantly. He closed his mouth very tactfully and let Yangzu solve everything. Yes, the boss lady is indeed beautiful, but why don't you decorate it? I don't mean anything else, but other inns are now changed to new styles, and yours is still the same as before. I'm afraid that the business will be snatched away by other inns. Yangzu spoke gently, and the boss lady didn't think much about it. After all, if they really disliked her inn for being shabby, they wouldn't come in. Who doesn't want to decorate their inn to attract more customers? But it's not like you can just decorate it. After all, you need some money to live. No one has come to mine for a long time. I lose money every day and can't make a penny. Where can I get the money to decorate it? After hearing what the proprietress said, Yangzu seemed to feel that she had never thought of this, so she said it casually, which was a bit impolite. I'm sorry, proprietress, I really didn't think of it. Who knew that the proprietress didn't care at all and continued to complain to them. It's normal. The girl is the only good girl who came to our place. There are also many people coming in on weekdays, but after seeing the situation of my store, they all complained that my place is broken. Even my husband and I are discriminated against. As soon as we go out, someone pokes our spine, saying that we have no money to open a store and get a broken house for ghosts to live in. The proprietress sighed while speaking, without a trace of light in her eyes, and it seems that she is really having a hard time. Every family has its own problems. It will get better slowly. Yangzu frowned, feeling very uncomfortable, so she spoke to comfort him. Alas, I'm afraid it won't be so smooth. You and I are destined to be together. My store will close in a few days. The boss's eyes were red, and she seemed to be about to cry. Yangzu looked really pitiful. She had never suffered from hardship since she was a child, but she didn't expect that some people would have such a hard life. Chapter 477, The Lady Boss's Shock. At the same time, this also made Yangzu think of the money she had on her. This money might not be a big deal in her eyes, and she couldn't buy anything, but if she gave it to the boss lady, maybe she could guarantee that the store would not go bankrupt. Boss lady, let's do this. I see that we are so compatible, and we can't eat your food for free. Let's pay for the next few days' meals, and stay here for a while longer. The boss lady, who was already short of money, was shocked after hearing what Yangzu said. She didn't expect that there were such good people in the world. And Yangzu looked like a rich man, and maybe he didn't care about the next few meals. But what the boss lady didn't expect was that such a rich and enthusiastic person would actually come to live in such a shabby store. Since Yangzu had already asked, she would not refuse. After all, her family was too short of money and would soon be unable to make ends meet. Under Bai Luo's gaze, Yangzu directly took out a large sum of silver and put it on the counter. These are all the money I brought out. I'll only keep a little for my living expenses, and the rest is for you. Yangzu smiled innocently and sincerely, which shocked the proprietress. There were 300 taels of silver on the counter, and 3 extremely large silver ingots on the counter. The proprietress couldn't accept it. After all, she hadn't seen so much money in many years. Girl, are you kidding me? Are you going to live here for many years? The proprietress looked at Yangzu in shock. She thought she had met a weirdo. Someone would live in such a small shop for such a long time. It must be that she had too much money to spend. A rich lady from a wealthy family could endure such hardship. Thinking of this, the proprietress looked at Bai Luo on the side. She didn't know how much blessing this boy had in his previous life to meet such a good girlfriend. Of course not. We don't know how long we will stay here. We should leave soon. Yangzu couldn't help but feel a little confused and said. The proprietress was even more shocked after hearing this. If they were only staying for a few days, why would they spend so much money? Little girl, you are not lying to me, are you? Even if you stay here for several years, you won't spend so much money, right? The proprietress was very serious. Her hands were shaking as she looked at the silver on the counter. I'm not kidding you. I told you that we can't eat for free. Can't you just give us some delicious food? In Yangzu's eyes, this little money seemed to be nothing at all. He said it with a relaxed look on his face, not caring about this matter at all. Even if you eat delicacies every day, you can't spend so much money, right? You give me so much money, how can I dare to accept it? Boss lady, don't you understand? This money will be yours in the future, and it will not be in vain for us to chat for so long, and it will save you from cooking for us and wasting your energy. Just think of it as a higher salary. Renovate this in the future so that we can stay here often. In an instant, the boss lady no longer seemed to think that Bai Luo had accumulated a lot of blessings in his previous life, but that he burned incense to meet such a noble person. Seeing that her inn was about to close down, she didn't expect to meet Yangzu and give her such a large sum of money. This amount of money is not only enough to renovate this inn, but also enough to open another one. How can I take so much money from you? We have never met before, and we just chatted for a few words. I dare not take it, even if you give it to me. Tears welled up in the boss lady's eyes, and she was very excited. She didn't know what to say. But the boss lady was very honest. If it was someone who was greedy for money, I'm afraid he would have taken this little money long ago. It's okay. Since I can afford it, it means that this money is nothing to me. You can just take it with peace of mind. At worst, we will stay here in the future and just be freeloaders without spending any money. You won't have to pay for the meal at that time. Just treat it as a free meal. Yao Yangzu laughed out loud. Hearing Yangzu say this, the boss's wife was very happy. In this case, she could just take the money. The boss's wife did not hesitate. After taking the money, she went to the back to call her husband out. After the boss came out, he was also very excited. He bowed madly to Bai Luo and Yangzu. If Bai Luo hadn't stopped him, I'm afraid the boss and the boss's wife would have knelt down to them. I think you young people are the nobles of my family. From now on, my store is your store. You can come anytime you want. If you ever want to take the store back, tell me and I will let you go immediately. After hearing what the boss said, Bai Luo immediately waved his hand. No, we'll give it to you, if we say so. We are not the kind of people who don't keep their word. Just run the business with confidence, save some money, and live a good life for the rest of your life. Yes. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus book bar released this novel. Thank you. May I ask what your names are? The boss nodded and bowed, then asked. After all, Bai Luo and Yangzu were his benefactors, so he couldn't not even know their names. My name is Bai Luo. I'm Yangzu. After hearing this, the boss kept nodding, as if he had engraved these two names into his heart, and would never forget them for the rest of his life. Afterwards, Bai Luo and his friends went upstairs, and stayed in a very clean room. He didn't expect that this inn was so shabby, but the room was so clean. It seemed that the boss and the boss's wife were very diligent. The two nobles came to the inn, so the boss naturally couldn't neglect them. He quickly asked the boss's wife to go out to buy vegetables and make a sumptuous meal to entertain Bai Luo and Yangzu. Unexpectedly, the proprietress ran into a group of people just after she went out. One of the leading men went up and asked the proprietress to stop him and asked fiercely, "Are you the proprietress of the inn in the east?" Although she didn't know why the other party asked for no reason, the proprietress didn't think much about it and nodded directly. When the man saw the proprietress nod, he felt a little happy in his heart, and a gleam of light flashed in his eyes. After all, their men saw Bai Luo and Yangzu enter the inn with their own eyes, and this was a good opportunity to catch them. Did the man and the woman enter your inn? I thought there were customers. Although they were a little fierce, they just wanted to stay in the hotel. Unexpectedly, this person actually asked about Bai Luo and Yangzu, which made the proprietress a little confused, and didn't dare to speak easily. No, our broken inn has been rotten for a long time. No one has come to stay for many months. Even if someone came in to take a look, they would leave. Chapter 478, The Evildoer. Besides, the boss lady's good temper is not for everyone. Since the other party is very fierce, she will definitely not be in a good mood. The boss lady rolled her eyes while speaking. I advise you to tell the truth. so as to avoid disaster. When she heard the other party threatening her, the boss lady became even more upset. Bai Luo and our Angzu had done her a favor, and she must not be the kind of person who does not know how to be grateful. If I say no, then no. If you don't believe me, go and see my shabby shop. Go and ask around to see if there is anyone willing to live in my place. I really don't know what's wrong with people nowadays. Do you look down on people like this? Although my shop has been abandoned for a long time, and no customers have stayed there, we didn't spend anyone's money, let alone eat other people's meals. Why do you keep mocking us? The boss lady became more and more angry as she spoke, and she simply started to curse. I'm going to go to you. I have never met you. Why do you want to poke my heart? I'm so unlucky to meet you. As the boss lady spoke, tears fell and she turned and left crying. After seeing the proprietress so excited, the man was also a little dumbfounded and did not chase after her to ask. After all, they could not ask anything. Soon, the proprietress returned to the inn, and she did not have time to buy food. She always felt that the group of people just now was a little strange, as if they were specifically targeting Bai Luo and his group. Without saying a word, the proprietress found Bai Luo and his group and knocked on the door. As the knocks on the door sounded, Bai Luo quickly got up to open the door. After seeing the proprietress, he smiled politely, thinking that the proprietress was here to deliver food to him. Unexpectedly, Bai Luo found that the proprietress had nothing in her hand. There is a group of people outside who stopped me when I was buying vegetables and asked if you were here. Are they bad guys? I think they seem murderous. The proprietress was confused. Since she saw that group of people, she has been uneasy. After hearing what the proprietress said, Bai Luo's eyes paused for a moment and looked at our Angzu behind him. It looks like the Luan family is here. Thank you, boss lady, for your hospitality. We have to leave as soon as possible. They are really immoral. You must stay away. These words were like thunderbolts that made the boss lady stunned, but she soon came to her senses and helped Bai Luo and the others evacuate. Since you want to leave, you can't go through the main entrance. Since the group has already asked me, they suspect our inn. Maybe they will come soon. What the boss lady said was not unreasonable, but Bai Luo was puzzled. In addition to going through the main entrance, is there any other place to go? The boss lady seemed to see Bai Luo's thoughts and immediately pointed out a way for Bai Luo. You go along the corridor to the left. In the last room, there is a tunnel under the floor. It is enough for the two of you to leave. The way pointed out by the boss lady was like a savior, which made Bai Luo very happy. He directly grabbed our Angzu's hand and ran to the left of the corridor. After entering the last room, Bai Luo looked around for the tunnel. He lay on the ground and looked under the bed. He saw a complete stone slab under the bed, which was probably the entrance to the secret passage. Without saying a word, Bai Luo took our Angzu into the secret passage, and the two began to flee the inn. Unexpectedly, the Luan family came to the outside of the inn very quickly and found Bai Luo's breath with a thunder dog that was specially used to detect breath. Boss, this is it. Bai Luo and our Angzu must have been here. At this moment, a group of people from the Luan family were standing in front of the broken inn, preparing to step in. Who knew that the boss and the boss lady rushed out and stopped them? Do you want to stay in the hotel? But my small inn really doesn't have so many rooms. It can't accommodate so many people. Looking at the dozens of people standing in front of him, the boss said with an embarrassed face. What hotel? Stay in the hotel? Don't you see that we are here to find someone? The lackey next to the leader said unhappily when he heard what the boss said. May I ask who you are? Why are you looking for someone here? Besides, no one lives in my shabby shop. The boss said and sighed helplessly. Don't pretend to be a fool here. Bai Luo and our Angzu must have been here. I advise you to tell the truth. The leading man gritted his teeth, as if he wanted to stuff the boss's brain into his own head, so that he could know where Bai Luo and the others were. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. Perhaps you are talking about the two young men who came to my shop this morning. The boss took a look at the thunder dogs in their hands and knew that he could not hide what happened in his shop. When the man in the lead heard the boss say this, His eyes lit up instantly. Where are they? Alas, how do I know where they went? A young man and woman did come here, and they seem to want to stay in the hotel, but you know how high the quality of life is for young people nowadays. After seeing the appearance of my shabby store, they left without saying a word to us. After hearing this, the proprietress next to him also spoke up. Yes, big brother, I have said that this shabby store is really uninhabited and will soon close down. Who knew that? The leading man did not listen to them at all and took people into search. After a while, he found 300 taels of silver on the counter. After Lei Gao checked, he found that there was a strong smell on the silver, which was from Ao Yangzu. It seems that Bai Luo and Ao Yangzu did come here and gave the boss such a large sum of money. The leading man winked at his men, and several people stood up in an instant, caught the boss and the proprietress, and threw them on the ground. I asked you to tell the truth, but you still won't. Where did the silver come from? That's right, I advise you two to tell the truth, otherwise don't blame me for taking your lives. Although facing the threat from the other party, the boss and the boss's wife still refused to say anything. This silver was given by relatives from my hometown. How do we know where they got it from? The boss rolled his eyes at the leading man and said unhappily, bullshit. Come on, do it. Following the order of Dai Cheng's man, several men on the side rushed up and beat the boss and the boss's wife. For a while, the door of the inn was full of screams. The boss and the boss's wife wanted to resist, but they had no power to fight back. After all, the other side had too many people. We really don't know. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 479 Apology. You still dare to say you don't know? You are really a fool who doesn't know how to live or die. The lackey of the leading man went up and kicked the boss and started to scold. I really don't know where they went. I have never met them. I just met them. Besides, they haven't stayed in mine yet. How can I know where they went? Brothers, you must investigate it clearly. Don't arbitrarily accuse good people, the boss said innocently, with a trace of blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. After all, this group of people beat them very hard. The pain from his body also made the boss a little weak. In any case, Bai Luo was also a benefactor of their family. If it weren't for Bai Luo, their inn would definitely go bankrupt. It is rare to meet good people like Bai Luo and his friends again in the world. On the other hand, the group of people in front of him are more like bad people. The boss will never expose Bai Luo and his friends, otherwise it would be too conscienceless. Bai Luo and Ao Yangzu on the other side have come out of the secret passage at this moment. Unexpectedly, when they were about to leave, they heard screams from afar. What's that sound? Ao Yangzu said with a puzzled look on her face, and looked in the direction of the sound from afar. Oh no, it's the innkeeper and his family. They must have been caught by the Luan family. After hearing this from Bai Luo, Ao Yangzu did not hesitate, and followed Bai Luo to rush to that place. After all, the innkeeper and the proprietress were good people and very innocent, and they must not be implicated because of them. At this time, the Luan family was ready to kill the proprietress. Since you don't say it, then don't be a bachelor in the future, the lackey said, while raising the corner of his mouth, looking at the boss with mockery and contempt in his eyes. No, let go of my wife, I will fight you. As he said that, the boss was about to stand up and rush over to fight with them, but the number of the other side was too large, and another strong man came over and kicked the boss away. In an instant, the boss was a little breathless due to the pain, and he couldn't make a sound. Then, the lackey called the other two and dragged the boss's wife over. He picked up a dagger and placed it on her wrist, ready to cut it at any time. No, I beg you, don't hurt my wife. Come to me if you have any problem. You. Looking at the pitiful look of the boss at this moment, the lackey sneered with a smug look on his face. I think only by doing something to your wife can you tell the truth. I heard that you are looking for me. At this time, Bai Luo's voice appeared. Everyone was startled and immediately looked towards Bai Luo. The boss and the boss's wife were also a little confused. Bai Luo and Ao Yangzu had finally escaped. Why did they come back? Bai Luo, you really came out. It's my soft heart that hurt you. The leading man smiled contemptuously after seeing Bai Luo. It's not that I'm soft-hearted, it's that the boss's family is really innocent. I just wanted to stay at his store, but I didn't expect to harm them. You guys are really vicious. If you have the ability, you won't come after me, but you specifically pick innocent people to attack. Bai Luo was angry and complained. Who do you think you are? I must kill one of you today. As the lackey said this, he cut the boss's wife's wrist with a dagger, and blood gushed out immediately. Ah! The boss's wife screamed, and she was extremely scared when she saw her cut wrist. Seeing the blood flowing out of his wife's body bit by bit, the boss was heartbroken. He struggled frantically and wanted to rush over to save his wife, but all his actions were in vain. Boss's wife, Yao Yangzu, who was standing aside, was shocked and extremely angry after seeing it for so long. I will make you pay with your lives. After seeing that, Yao Yangzu was extremely angry. The man who led the other side was overjoyed. This was what they were waiting for. Before this, the Luan family had already prepared a method to attract thunder in advance and wanted to use this formation to get rid of Yao Yangzu. After all, this formation will increase its power according to the anger value of the person. As long as Yao Yangzu has a little more anger, the formation will be more powerful. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 = 9 plus BOOK_BAR published this novel for the first time. It's a thunder-inducing formation. Bai Luo saw through the other party's thoughts at a glance. After looking around, he immediately realized that the other party was using a thunder-inducing formation. He moved to Yao Yangzu's side and lowered his voice to remind her. I know, but I have a lot of ways to deal with them. Yao Yangzu raised her mouth with disdain and looked at the people in front of her fiercely. You know, she has the genuine Xianlei book in her hand. I believe that, after seeing this kind of thing, the players will no longer be lawless. Yao Yangzu stood in the formation unhurriedly, making seals with her hands, and mumbling something in her mouth. Soon, many words appeared in the sky, which were the genuine Xianlei book. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. You know, if there is the genuine Heavenly Thunder book, the formation in their hands will be useless. Just like stepping on an ant with a boot, there is only one way to go. Moreover, the only people who have the genuine Heavenly Thunder book are the senior leaders of the Thunder Cloud Pavilion, and the Luan family can't afford to offend such people. Quickly put away the formation. The leading man stared and waved his hand quickly, asking his men to take back the formation. If they accidentally hurt Bai Luo and Yao Yangzu, they would be in big trouble. He immediately walked towards Yao Yangzu and said humbly, Miss, I'm the head of the Luan family, and I'm Artasian who has good eyesight. Please don't use the Heavenly Thunder book and hurt everyone. The Luan family only knew to apologize at this moment, but he was only concerned with persuading Yao Yangzu not to be angry, but forgot the proprietress who was still lying on the ground. Yao Yangzu looked at the proprietress on the ground, her eyes full of heartache. How can I not be angry when you hurt innocent people like this? You must pay the price for killing someone. Yao Yangzu stared at the head of the Luan family in front of her with an unhappy face and said viciously, No, 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 you look so good. Why do you have such a bad temper? We know that. Besides, we are all a family. What we did just now was wrong. Please be generous and don't bother with us little minions. Bai Luo stood aside and watched the man's expression. He felt ironic in his heart. He was so arrogant just now, but after seeing the Xianlei book in Yao Yangzu's hand, he turned into such a coward. Bai Luo on the side couldn't help but smile and looked at the man with contempt. Idiot. Yes, you are right to scold. At this moment, the head of the Luan family seemed to have become a lackey, directly agreeing with Bai Luo's words. Even if Bai Luo was scolding him at this moment, he had to bear it. Chapter 480 Jade Pendant. Master, they don't look like the top leaders of Lian Pavilion at all. Yes, Master, every top leader of Lian Pavilion can use the genuine Xianlei Pu, and this woman hasn't used the Xianlei Pu just now. Don't trust them easily. There are still a few people in the Luan family who have practiced the thunder art. They always feel that Bai Luo and Yao Yangzu are a little bit strange. Although what they just showed is indeed the genuine Tili Pu, Yao Yangzu has never used it no matter what. There is something strange, and they can't trust them so quickly. After hearing what his subordinates said, the master of the Luan family was a little confused in his heart and looked at Ao Yangzu with a surprised face. Originally, Ao Yangzu was particularly angry because of the boss lady's matter, and seeing the reaction of the Luan family, she was even more angry and directly used Cheyenne Luipu to teach them a lesson. The few Luan family members who just spoke were knocked down by Ao Yangzu's Cheyenne Luipu and flew several meters away. Then, Ao Yangzu was ready to use the Heavenly Thunder chart to deal with it again. After all, killing someone means paying with one's life. Since the proprietress was already dying, they had no chance of survival. But who knew that, just when Ao Yangzu was about to raise her hand, all the people of the Luan family came to plead with Ao Yangzu. Please spare my life, young lady. We were wrong just now. We shouldn't have doubted your identity. We promise not to do it again next time. At this moment, Ao Yangzu was still furious, while Bai Luo on the side was relatively calm. Since the Luan family had already admitted their defeat, Bai Luo and the others had to hurry up and leave. If they continued to waste time like this, it might be disadvantageous to them. Bai Luo reached out and grabbed Ao Yangzu's hand, signaling Ao Yangzu not to get angry again. And Ao Yangzu also understood Bai Luo's meaning in an instant and took back the Heavenly Thunder chart. After seeing Ao Yangzu's actions, everyone instantly relaxed a little, and a group of people immediately nodded and bowed to thank her. Ao Yangzu did not pay any more attention to them, but walked towards the proprietress lying on the ground. The boss was also released at this moment, and he ran towards his wife frantically, crying beside her. The boss's wife had completely lost her breath from her last breath just now. Ao Yangzu felt particularly sad when she looked at her body. Originally, she thought that the boss and his wife could live a good life, but who knew that, because of Bai Luo and Ao Yangzu, the boss's wife was implicated, which led to the boss's wife's death. If the person is gone, what's the use of so much money? Bai Luo, who was standing aside, seemed to have thought of something. The money that Ao Yangzu gave to the boss's wife today seemed to have been taken away by the Luan family. He walked towards the head of the Luan family and made a gesture to ask for money. The head of the family instantly understood what Bai Luo meant and quickly took out 300 taels of silver from his pocket. Logically speaking, you should not be short of money to spend. Why do you do such a heinous thing? It's really shameful. Bai Luo rolled his eyes and scolded, scolding the head of the Luan family. Bai Luo ignored them and walked to the side of the boss lady. He put his hand on her cut wrist, and the bleeding stopped instantly. It was a fluke, and Bai Luo didn't believe it. Who knew that at this time, the boss lady's eyelids moved. After seeing the boss lady move, the three people on the side were shocked. After all, after bleeding for such a long time, there was probably not much blood left in her body. Under normal circumstances, the boss lady must have lost her life, but for some reason, the boss lady was still alive. Hurry, we have to leave quickly, we can't stay here any longer. Bai Luo hurriedly reminded them. After all, the Luan family thought that the boss lady was dead. If the boss lady came back to life at this time, it might cause trouble. At the same time, Bai Luo gave the boss a look. Although the boss was worried and a little happy in his heart, he still pretended to be sad and cried so that the other party would not notice. Bai Luo and his friends pretended to leave with the body and put the boss lady down after they walked away. At this time, the boss lady had completely woken up. Except for her unsightly face, she did not have any other discomfort. But what Bai Luo and his friends didn't know was that Ao Yangzu's use of the genuine Cheyenne Luipu had attracted the attention of Lian Pavilion. After all, Lian Pavilion was careful in its work and would not look down upon a stranger using their own Cheyenne Luipu. Lian Pavilion even thought that Bai Luo and his friends were some supreme elders who were forced to live in exile, so they were anxious and quickly sent people to investigate. After a while, Bai Luo had already brought them to a safe place. There were not many people around, let alone those so-called Luan family members. It should be safer here. Let's go our separate ways. Bai Luo looked at the boss and smiled helplessly. Read the error-free version at 69 bookbar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR published this novel for the first time. Ao Yangzu, who was standing aside, looked at the boss's wife and was even more anxious. After all, both of them were injured, and they didn't know if they would encounter danger on the road. But now that things have come to this, Bai Luo and his friends can no longer care about the boss and his wife. After all, staying with Bai Luo and his friends is like asking for trouble. If they don't hurry up and let the boss and his friends leave, they may be implicated. Where are you going next? Do you have a place to stay? The boss seemed to be a little worried about Bai Luo and his friends, so he asked. Bai Luo smiled and said, "Thank you, brother. You don't have to worry about our affairs. Take the boss's wife to find a place to stay so as not to encounter any danger again." As Bai Luo spoke, he took out the large amount of money that was robbed by the Luan family from his pocket and handed it to the boss. "Take this money. I will ask them for it before I leave. Thank you for helping us this time. I didn't expect that you would suffer so much," Bai Luo said and sighed. The boss's family was innocent, but he didn't expect that he would suffer so much just because he stayed in the store. Although the boss's wife had a narrow escape, she still needed to be well taken care of afterwards. Their store might not be easy to open, but if they had the money, they could open another one somewhere else. Bai Luo could only guarantee their future life, so there should be nothing to worry about. The boss seemed a little embarrassed and hesitated to accept the money from Bai Luo. When Bai Luo saw it, he immediately stuffed the money into his pocket without saying a word. "Thank you." At this moment, the boss's eyes were still red, with tears faintly rolling in them. He looked at Bai Luo and Ao Hangzhou and felt an indescribable feeling in his heart. "I have another jade pendant here, which should be able to exchange for some money. You can take it. If you are short of money, just pawn it." Ao Hangzhou felt that the boss and his family were really pitiful, and they could have just walked themselves and Bai Luo out to save their lives, and they even risked their lives to protect themselves. Chapter 481 Ao Hangzhou's reminder. They were strangers and had only met once. There were not many people like them, but it was always these people who had the hardest life. Ao Hangzhou couldn't stand it. Gradually, this made her feel quite confused and helpless. So, Ao Hangzhou took out a jade pendant from her body. The material was very good and crystal clear. Maybe it could be exchanged for more than a few hundred taels. After seeing the jade pendant in Ao Hangzhou's hand, the boss was shocked. He had already received so much money from them. How could he have the face to hold this jade pendant? "No, no, no, you don't have to give me anything anymore. I'll just take the money." The boss waved his hands in panic and shook his head frantically. Seeing this, Ao Hangzhou shook her head helplessly. "Brother, just take it. You and the boss lady risked everything for us just now. We saw it. Besides, it's all because of us that you and the boss lady suffered so much. The boss lady almost lost her life. We are sorry for you. It's only right that you give us something." After listening to what Ao Hangzhou said, the boss accepted the jade pendant without saying anything more. After all, Bai Luo and Ao Hangzhou are from Lian Pavilion, so they should not lack money to spend. "I didn't expect the people in Lian Pavilion to be so nice. Thank you very much." Not only did the boss not blame them, but Bai Luo and Ao Hangzhou kept stealing, which made Ao Hangzhou feel even more guilty. But when the two heard what the boss said at this time, they were shocked. When did they become members of Lian Pavilion? "Brother, we are not from Lian Pavilion. We just learned some small magic, which happened to be used to fool them." "Yes, brother, we just thought of a way out of desperation." After hearing what Bai Luo said, Ao Hangzhou also began to agree, fearing that the boss would not believe it. "Are you really not from Lian Pavilion?" At this time, the boss was still a little skeptical, so he asked again. "Of course we are not from Lian Pavilion. If we were, we could have told those people directly. Why did we escape from your secret passage?" Bai Luo smiled helplessly and patted the boss on the shoulder. "You take the boss's wife back to rest well, and the two of us will leave first. If we are destined to meet again in the future, we will get together again." With that, Bai Luo was ready to leave with Ao Hangzhou. But who knew that the boss actually handed over the jade pendant just now? "This jade pendant looks so valuable, it can't be bought with a few hundred taels of silver. Are you so rich?" The boss really couldn't believe that two such young people had so many treasures. "Did you steal this thing? You take it away. I can't have it. You must be careful on the road." The boss's serious words instantly made Bai Luo laugh and cry. It is not impossible that the boss didn't know the whole story and would mistake himself and our Yangzu for thieves. Hiss. It seems that he needs to explain again. We didn't steal it. We just have a grudge against the Luan family. Our Yangzu's conditions are better and she can afford it. Just take it. Don't think too much. Just think of it as our thank you. Bai Luo didn't look like he was lying. The boss nodded after listening. Don't do sneaky things. You two young people must remember to avoid getting into trouble. I know, brother, we will never do that kind of thing. Yao Yangzu was also helpless in her heart and said after sighing, don't leave in a hurry. I have something to give you. The boss finally accepted the jade pendant with peace of mind and then took out a piece of paper from his body and a pen he carried with him and scribbled on it. Bai Luo and Yao Yangzu stood aside, feeling a little overwhelmed. They were anxious, but they didn't dare to leave. After all, the boss had something he hadn't finished explaining. I have learned a lot today. I know that there is a creature called Thunderdog in Lian Pavilion that can sense the residual energy and find you. After these words came out, Bai Luo and Yao Yangzu looked at each other and suddenly realized. It turned out that the Luan family found them through this thing. It seems that they need to be more cautious in the future. The world is so big that there are all kinds of strange things. Bai Luo frowned and didn't say much. Boss, have you heard about Lian Pavilion? Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR published this novel for the first time. Since we have already dealt with Lian Pavilion, we need to understand it to avoid making the road ahead even more difficult. I have heard a little bit about it. Lian Pavilion has a great status in Beizhou. There are many elders with extraordinary abilities. You'd better not provoke them. Hearing this, Bai Luo nodded. Then, the boss handed the paper in his hand to Bai Luo. When I was in the store yesterday, I vaguely heard you two say that you wanted to open a store. Although my shabby store is not going well, I still have some connections. Maybe you will use this letter of introduction in the future, and it will not be in vain for me to take so much money from you. The boss looked sincere. Yao Yangzu, who was standing beside him, was very happy to see this, and quickly borrowed the letter of introduction. Bai Luo didn't need to do anything. If you can open a store in the future and live a down-to-earth life, it would be the best. Thank you. After Bai Luo thanked him, the two separated. The boss supported the boss's wife and walked away slowly. At this time, Bai Luo had a headache. This place is still some distance away from Beizhou, and it is probably impossible to walk there. Just when the two were feeling melancholy, a flying monster appeared. Perhaps it stopped because it sensed Bai Luo's breath. This monster is the descendant of a little rabbit. Bai Luo could ride it to Beizhou. But who knew that on the way to Beizhou by the monster, Bai Luo and his friends caused countless commotions. After all, the strength of this monster has reached the level of a semi-grand master, and it is always noticed by others. At the same time, other areas of Beizhou also knew the news, and the hidden sect was the first to send people out to encircle and suppress it. The Fire Dragon sect also wanted to get involved, and people from other major sects came over, all wanting to get a piece of the pie. But in the end, several major sects decided to discuss together. After a long time, Bai Luo and his friends arrived in Beizhou. Before landing, Yao Yangzu felt that the monster was too ostentatious. After all, it was huge. After entering Beizhou, if it was still swaggering, it might cause disaster. It's better not to be too conspicuous, what do you think? Hearing this, the other party nodded, because he felt it made sense. At the same time, after Yao Yangzu's reminder, Bai Luo made the monster shrink in size, so that they disappeared. After arriving in Beizhou. Chapter 482, Hidden Strength. After half an hour, Bai Luo felt that they were quite far away from that place. Then they slowly slowed down. Bai Luo looked at the surroundings and found that this was still a suburb. It was not a prosperous area anyway. But it was quite late now, and Bai Luo did not plan to continue on his way. So he said to Yao Yangzu beside him, let's rest here for a while. After all, we have traveled such a long way now, and we have not rested all the way here. There should be a long way to go later. After all, there is no sign of getting close to the prosperous area here, so it will take a while to find that place now. Let's rest here for a while. Gao Yangzu nodded, thinking that Bai Luo's suggestion was indeed good. The main reason was that Gao Yangzu was also tired now. Finally, Gao Yangzu looked at the monster that had become smaller just now. Then she looked at Bai Luo beside her. Now that we have reached a safe place and have shaken off those who were chasing us, these monsters should be able to go back, right? Otherwise, it would be inconvenient for us to keep them with us. Bai Luo nodded. What Yangzu said was indeed correct. So Bai Luo immediately turned around and looked at the monster that had become smaller. He knew that it was the offspring of the little rabbit, but he didn't intend to bother him all the time. Bai Luo knew that, although these monsters could not communicate with them normally, they should be able to understand their speech. So Bai Luo said to them, "Now that you have sent us here safely, I'm very grateful to you for what you did just now, but you should leave quickly." Those monsters seemed to really understand Bai Luo's words. After listening to Bai Luo's words, these monsters suddenly returned to their normal state. Then they circled in the sky for a few circles. After seeing this phenomenon, Bai Luo, who was standing aside, immediately waved his hand to the monsters above. Goodbye. Then he watched these monsters disappear in his own world. After seeing this scene, Bai Luo couldn't help but sigh. It turns out that Zero 2's descendants have come here. If there is enough time, let them meet Zero 2. Gao Yangzu smiled. There will definitely be a chance, but it is definitely not now. We should still be in the suburbs now. When we have rested, we will continue to go there. Anyway, we have to find a prosperous area now, otherwise it will be useless to keep walking around here if we want to find a place to open a store. Bai Luo also nodded, then frowned and looked at the surrounding environment. It's getting late now, let's sit down and rest. After all, we haven't rested much at night in the past 2 days. Now we rest here for a while, and then continue to set off later. Gao Yangzu nodded. The two of them did rest here for a while, but they didn't stay here for long. Then the two continued to rush in another direction. However, it seemed that they had found the right direction, because more and more people on the road gradually appeared. Because their goal was very clear. Anyway, they had to find a prosperous area as soon as possible. They are basically at the edge of the North State continent, so the population is relatively sparse. And Bai Luo also felt that this place is indeed a bit desolate. Because Bai Luo and Gao Yangzu had exposed their southern identity before, they encountered unnecessary troubles later. The two discussed this matter while rushing on the road. They all found that there is actually a big gap between the northerners and the southerners. The southerners are okay, but the people in the North State area really look down on the southerners. Before, they were also wondering why these people could tell that they were southerners at a glance. Later, Bai Luo and his friends specifically asked the proprietress of the previous store and knew that these people could actually see the difference between the northerners and the southerners by looking at their behavior. In order to avoid some trouble, Bai Luo and Gao Yangzu directly learned some lessons from the boss. So in many cases, their behavior pretended to be very much like the locals here. However, the facts proved that Bai Luo and his friends' approach was indeed very correct. During this journey, neither of them was discovered by other people. At that time, when they were asking for directions, these people also directly regarded them as local Bizhao people. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus underscore. So it was very convenient to talk. But when walking, Bai Luo found that the distance was indeed a bit far. It had been a while, but it seemed that there was still a long way to go. It feels like it will take a long time to walk like this. Sure enough, the distance is still a bit far. Gao Yangzu also nodded. They originally thought that the distance between this remote area and the central area would not be very far. After all, people like them who practice immortality can also comprehend very quickly. But they didn't expect the distance here to be so far. Just when the two were still worrying about this matter, they saw a group of monsters that looked more like horses in front of them. After seeing this situation, Bai Luo looked around with some confusion. There were also some other people talking in front. After seeing this situation, Bai Luo hurried over. Finally, he said to a villager inside, "Hello, what are you doing? Won't this monster attack people?" The man's attitude was still very friendly. Since Bai Luo asked this question, he finally explained to Bai Luo with a smile. This is a kind of monster beast in our local area. It is domesticated. We usually use it to travel. When the man said this, he immediately pointed to the scene where several villagers left on this monster beast. You see, it's like this. After all, our Bai Luo continent is vast and rich in resources. The area is still very wide. Many local residents need to use this monster beast to travel, which can greatly increase our travel efficiency. After hearing this man's words, Bai Luo also quickly looked at Aoyangzu beside him. Then Aoyangzu nodded. Then I think we can indeed take this monster beast to go there, and we can save a lot of time at that time. Bai Luo nodded, and then the two of them left here directly on the monster beast. The villager just told them that if they wanted to go to a more prosperous area quickly, they had to go to another teleportation point first. That teleportation array is still some distance away from here, because that teleportation array is in the southern area of Bai Luo. Although they are now in this slightly southern area, it is indeed a little bit away from there. Chapter 483, Teleportation Arrays of Different Levels. So the two of them had to hurry to the southern part of Bai Luo, and then take the teleportation array, to go to the more prosperous area. At that time, they could save a lot of time. However, these monsters are really powerful, and it is indeed much more convenient than them to move by themselves. Not long after, the two of them arrived at the southern part of Bai Luo. In fact, Bai Luo and the others also found that there were obviously many more people after they came here. This shows that the marginal area of Bai Luo they were in is indeed a relatively backward place. Now many people are queuing here. But Bai Luo, I still want to find out the situation here first. So Bai Luo randomly found a person who seemed to be easy to get along with, and then asked him about the news here. Brother, are you queuing up to take the teleportation array? The man looked at Bai Luo in front of him, although there was a strange feeling in his eyes. But he didn't say much after all. Then the man pointed to the big pillars in front. There are more and more people now, so if you want to take the teleportation array, hurry up and line up. When it's your turn, we can go in. Then Bai Luo looked around and found that the teleportation array in front seemed to be a little different from the legend he had seen before. Bai Luo looked at Aoyangzu beside him. Then let's line up now. Although this line looks long, I think the efficiency here is also quite high. It shouldn't be long before we can go straight through. Aoyangzu nodded, then looked up at the line. Indeed, it feels like the speed is really fast. As soon as the two finished saying this, there was a commotion in the crowd. Bai Luo and the others saw a group of people coming from a distance. And those people were coming from the teleportation array over there, and the momentum over there seemed to be very big. After seeing this, Aoyangzu beside him couldn't help but frowned. She seemed to have guessed something, and then turned sideways to say to Bai Luo beside him, I think what happened over there before has been passed on. I think it is very likely that the people over there are from the Lian Pavilion. They had seen the people from the Lian Pavilion before, but the man in the middle now seemed to be quite majestic. Bai Luo and the others had never seen him before. Then Bai Luo thought of what happened before, and then turned around and said to Aoyangzu who was standing beside him, that person looks quite old, but his posture is much more powerful than the person we met last time. He may be a person of higher status in the Lian Pavilion, and he looks quite old. After listening to Bai Luo's words, Aoyangzu's eyes were always on that person. Aoyangzu looked at that person from a distance, and then told Bai Luo who was standing beside her guess. Look at the group of people who are surrounding him. This person must have a very high status. I think he should be the supreme elder of the Lian Pavilion. After listening to Aoyangzu's words, Bai Luo smiled and said, Grand Elder? But it's possible. After all, he seems to be quite old. Because they had fought with some people in Lian Pavilion before, and they didn't get along well. They also knew that Lian Pavilion would never let them go after the last incident, and Lian Pavilion also had a high status here. If Bai Luo and his friends wanted to open a store in a busy area, they might run into them again. So Bai Luo didn't want to conflict with them again, and Aoyangzu also knew their current situation very well, so the two of them were naturally very low-key. They just talked about them in a low voice. But Bai Luo found that these civilians were not very satisfied with Lian Pavilion. Although everyone looked respectful, many civilians were already talking about them. There was some dissatisfaction in their tone. After hearing these words, Bai Luo and our Hangzhou on the side looked at each other. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR published this novel for the first time. Bai Luo was a little curious, and then patted the shoulder of the person next to him. Then he asked, "Brother, I just heard you say that Lian Pavilion seemed to have done something not so good. Actually, in my impression, Lian Pavilion seems to be a very large family in this area. Why do you seem to have a bad image in your mind?" After hearing Bai Luo's words, the man stared at Bai Luo for a while. Then he laughed playfully. Bai Luo naturally knew what the man was thinking. After all, he didn't seem to have any strength at all. He was just a very weak person, because he didn't have the luck of a strong man. Even in the eyes of ordinary people, he was not as good as them. But Bai Luo didn't think it mattered. Anyway, he didn't need to get affirmation from others. So Bai Luo just smiled and continued. "We actually came from those remote small restaurants in the Beeshao area, so there are many rules in this place, and we don't understand them very well. Please tell us something about this place, so that we can keep an eye on it." The man seemed to be very pleased with Bai Luo's words, so at this time he also smiled, and said to Bai Luo in front of him, "So they are from the countryside. But it's normal that you haven't heard of these things. After all, the scope of Lian Pavilion's activities is limited to crowded places." When he said this, the man sneaked to Bai Luo's side. Then he said to Bai Luo meaningfully, "Although these people are very powerful here, many people here don't obey them, because these people only care about their own interests, and don't care about the lives of us ordinary people. Their strength is also very similar, but every time they fight, they don't care where they are, and they don't care about the place of the fight after the fight. Anyway, they just want to fight." When he said this, another person came over. He seemed to have something to say. "That's right. Anyway, it's us ordinary people who suffer. They rely on their strong strength, and don't need to pay compensation, even if they break our things. Take the last incident, for example. They destroyed half of our city during the fight. That place was really disgusting. Many residents' houses were destroyed. But these people didn't even talk about the follow-up compensation and just left." After listening to what these people said, Bai Luo and our Hangzhou looked at each other. Chapter 484 Screening. It turns out that these people are not welcome in the eyes of these common people. The eyes of the two people seem meaningful. But after they understood the situation here, they didn't say anything more when they greeted them. After all, there are many people and eyes. If some bad remarks are heard by others, it will be a disaster. After all, if these people know the true identity of Bai Luo and others, they may really betray them. So Bai Luo and others have to keep a low profile as much as possible. Fortunately, no one sent by the Lian Pavilion this time knows them, so it can be regarded as a close call. Bai Luo and others continued to line up, and the speed was quite fast. It didn't take long for them to arrive. But what Bai Luo didn't expect was that there was a screening mode before entering the legend. But Bai Luo and others have always been very low-key, so their strength has not been shown at all. In the front, because they were worried about attracting too much attention, Bai Luo and our Hangzhou hid their strength. In the eyes of these people, the two of them looked like those who had no strength at all. Those who were doing the inspection were just going through the process and didn't dig deeper. After seeing Bai Luo and our Hangzhou meet, they were led directly into another teleportation array. Bai Luo didn't expect that this array was actually divided into levels. What was the significance of this level division? Could it be that he still didn't understand their operation? But since those inspectors were still around, Bai Luo couldn't say much. He just walked in honestly. Now there were many people around. Bai Luo was a little curious, and then he walked to a person. Then he turned sideways and asked, "Brother, why is the teleportation array here divided into levels? I saw some people were taken to other places. Why were we put in this array? How do they distinguish them?" The man saw Bai Luo and didn't think much about it, and then answered Bai Luo, "You don't even know this. They divide the teleportation array according to strength. Usually, the people who are assigned to this ordinary teleportation array are not very strong. Most of them are like ordinary people like us. This is just an ordinary teleportation, so there are still many dangers. There may be dangers during the teleportation process, and even death. After hearing this, Bai Luo couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Then they really weren't authentic enough to do such a thing. They actually risked their lives to sit in a teleportation array, and Bai Luo and his friends paid for it. They didn't expect to be assigned here just because of their lack of strength. If they paid, they might even lose their lives here, which is really not worth it. Gao Yangzu, who was standing aside, naturally heard their conversation. Then Yangzu looked at Bai Luo, who was standing aside, and finally said, "Then should we continue to sit? Or should we show some strength, and then we can be assigned to another teleportation array? After all, it is still quite dangerous to make this teleportation array." Gao Yangzu felt that she could show some strength to be placed in a good place first. However, Bai Luo, who was standing by, shook his head immediately after hearing this. "Forget it. I always feel that if we don't handle it well, there might be complications and we might get into other troubles. I feel that we might not even be able to sit here." Gao Yangzu didn't say much. After all, what Bai Luo said made sense. If they wanted to change a teleportation array to show their strength, it would be a big deal if they were caught by the Thundercloud Pavilion. So Yangzu nodded, but was still worried about the safety of this ordinary teleportation array. "If you are sure you want to sit here, we will continue to stay here. But as you heard just now, the danger of sitting in this teleportation array is still very high. We are afraid that we will encounter any dangerous situation inside, and we will not be able to react at that time. So are you sure you still want to sit in this teleportation array? The main thing is that we have other options. It's still in time to go out now." Bai Luo hesitated for a while, and finally nodded. After all, they have been delayed here for a while, and many things have happened before. Bai Luo and his friends now have to rush to the prosperous area as soon as possible. If they don't teleport now, they might still wander around the North Continent for a long time. After all, the distance is so far. So Bai Luo approached Yangzu and then whispered to her, "Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. Otherwise, let's sit down." After all, through this teleportation array, we can reach the central area of the North Continent, which can greatly reduce our travel time. And I don't believe that we are really so unlucky. Anyway, if we encounter any situation, we can take care of each other inside. After listening to Bai Luo's words, Gao Yangzu didn't say anything more. After all, she followed Bai Luo this time, so she would agree to whatever Bai Luo decided. Thus, I also think it shouldn't be a big problem for us to deal with this situation. Bai Luo on the side also laughed. Not long after, this legendary array started directly. There are quite a lot of people in their teleportation array. After all, there are more ordinary people here. This teleportation array started directly, and Bai Luo immediately felt the inferiority of this legendary array. The feeling of sitting inside was very bad. But Bai Luo could still bear it. Just when Bai Luo and the others thought they could reach the central region safely, then an accident happened. The teleportation array suddenly shook violently, and the people inside panicked instantly. Several frightened ordinary people had already started screaming. But Bai Luo and Yangzu were still relatively calm, because they did not feel any other dangerous breath now. It was nothing more than the quality of the teleportation array. Then the teleportation array shook for a while, because this time was still relatively long. So Bai Luo couldn't help but frowned. But at this time, the teleportation array suddenly stopped. Then the door of the teleportation array opened directly. After Yangzu saw the scenery outside, she turned sideways and said to Bai Luo beside her, "We may be in trouble now, because we have not arrived at the place we want to go, but have been involved in a different space. Look outside." Chapter 485, Chaos Power. Now everyone is in a state of extreme panic. Bai Luo was also panicked for a moment. After all, he didn't expect that there was really a problem with the teleportation array. Then Bai Luo looked at Yangzu on the side, and after finding that Yangzu was not threatened, he suggested, Although the situation has become like this now, we still have to go out to see the situation and see where we are now. Gao Yangzu nodded. Then Gao Yangzu looked at the people around and found that most of them were civilians. And most of them are now out of their minds, with fear in their eyes. Gao Yangzu also knew that this would not work, and they could not stay in this teleportation array forever. Although they have now arrived in another space. But they must find a way to leave here quickly. So Gao Yangzu also hurriedly said to them, "Don't worry, everyone, although we don't know where we are now, but we still have to go out to see the situation. Otherwise it will be useless to stay here all the time." But everyone's eyes were still full of fear, and no one dared to try that step in the future. After seeing this situation, Gao Yangzu was a little helpless, but she could still understand their feelings. Then Gao Yangzu didn't think much about it, and then she went out by herself. Bai Luo, who was beside her, saw this situation and followed her out immediately. It's just that the situation outside is a little different from what they expected. Because as soon as they went out, they found that the space outside was abnormally dark, and they couldn't see anything clearly. The whole world was dark, which also made Bai Luo and Gao Yangzu fall into a kind of fear without support. However, Gao Yangzu and Bai Luo still calmed down very well, because they knew that, if they wanted to leave here, they had to rely on the two of them. Bai Luo is not sure what the situation is here, but now there is no visibility at all. After seeing this situation, Gao Yangzu, who was beside her, immediately recited a few spells. Then she used her own skills to light up the surrounding environment. Although the amount is not very high, it is better than before. This also allows Bai Luo and the others to observe what the situation is around. Bai Luo looked at the surrounding environment and then said to Gao Yangzu beside him, "It turns out that we have arrived in front of a mountain, but we can't see the way out of here for the time being." Gao Yangzu nodded. "Indeed, we can't see it, so let's go around and look for another way out." However, the scope here is still quite large, and Gao Yangzu immediately looked at the teleportation array. In fact, the teleportation array is almost disappearing, and it only looks like a very small shielding area. But those people don't dare to come out. They must have never encountered such a situation before, and they dare not act rashly. Gao Yangzu knew that, if they wanted to leave here, they had to ask them for help. After all, there is strength in numbers, and if they need to find another way out, they must ask everyone to help find it. Gao Yangzu hesitated for a while, but still ran over. She looked at these frightened people, and then hurriedly persuaded them. "Don't worry about it. Although our current attributes are not good, I think we still have a good chance of escaping from here. As long as we find a way out, there will be nothing to worry about. Bai Luo and I have just found that we are in front of a mountain, but we have not found a way to leave here, so we really need your help." When Gao Yangzu said this, she paused for a moment, and then continued. "Anyway, we have no other way now. Instead of sitting here and waiting to die, we might as well try to find another way out." Gao Yangzu's words touched these people, and they looked at each other after hearing what Gao Yangzu said. Then one or two people left the teleportation array. Then everyone couldn't move. After seeing the scene outside, everyone was also very curious. But more of them were afraid, and everyone didn't dare to do anything. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 = 9 + BOOK_BAR first published this novel. Bai Luo, who was standing aside, saw them coming and hurried over. "It's great that everyone can come here. Anyway, there is strength in numbers. We really need your help now. Since everyone has come out, I won't say much nonsense. I think there must be another way out around here, so everyone should move quickly and see where that way out is." Finally, Bai Luo stepped forward and looked at the surrounding environment. After hearing what Bai Luo said, the other people naturally knew what was right and what was wrong. If they don't work hard now, they may be trapped here forever. It's only a matter of time before they die here. Bai Luo wandered around here, and soon he found that something was wrong. Because he always felt like someone was watching them in secret. I don't know why, this feeling is very strong. Bai Luo felt that his back was stimulated by a kind of eyes. After that, Bai Luo looked at the surrounding environment again. Gao Yangzu, who was standing next to him, saw that Bai Luo's expression was not good and then said directly, "What's wrong with you? Is there something wrong?" Bai Luo shook his head and then said with some doubt, "I feel like someone is always watching us, but I haven't found out where that person is. But this feeling is really scary, and I can't even find the source of that fear." After hearing Bai Luo's words, Gao Yangzu also frowned. After all, Bai Luo rarely said such words to her. Usually, if there was something, Bai Luo would not take the initiative to tell her, especially such a bad thing. So after hearing Bai Luo say this, Gao Yangzu immediately became alert. She also quickly took this matter seriously. Then Gao Yangzu silently recited a few spells, and then the visibility here was a little higher. Gao Yangzu immediately went around to check the situation. But before Gao Yangzu took a few steps, she found something wrong. After seeing this situation, Gao Yangzu quickly grabbed Bai Luo who was beside her. Then she stepped back a few steps. Then Gao Yangzu looked at the people around her again, and then she shouted anxiously, "Everyone, retreat to my side, hurry up." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 486. No intention of harm. Although no one knew what happened here, they knew that something was definitely wrong. So everyone ran away in a panic. Then Gao Yangzu hurriedly checked the situation behind them, and then Bai Luo also found something wrong. The mountain behind them turned out to be a huge monster. Bai Luo didn't find anything wrong with the mountain at the beginning, thinking it was just an ordinary mountain. Unexpectedly, it was a monster lying here. After seeing this, Bai Luo didn't react for a while. The monster also found it, and then they stood up directly. The monster was so big that the surrounding area shook when he moved. After seeing this situation, the civilians around were even more panicked. They didn't expect such a situation to happen suddenly. Some people inside were already running around. After seeing this situation, Gao Yangzu quickly called them. "Don't worry, we don't know the situation here yet, but don't panic. Otherwise we don't know if there are other monsters around. So calm down. We will find a way to solve it." After hearing Gao Yangzu's words, everyone didn't dare to move. Although they also knew that the current situation was very dangerous, the only people they could rely on were Gao Yangzu and Bai Luo. So they didn't dare to escape at all. But they were really scared when they saw this scene. The monster was slowly approaching Bai Luo and his friends, and then opened its mouth. But Bai Luo didn't retreat immediately, because Bai Luo knew that it would be too late, even if he ran now. Then Bai Luo slowly released the power in his body. After all, there was chaos power in his body, so he released this power without hesitation. Sure enough, this monster was still afraid of the power in Bai Luo's body. After Bai Luo released this power, the monster didn't dare to take the next step, and he subconsciously stepped back a few steps. However, Bai Luo did not realize this. He only knew that the size of this monster was too big. Bai Luo was still worried about the safety of the people around him, and then he quickly said to them, "Everyone, pay attention to the situation around you, but don't panic, and don't run around. Everyone calm down at this time." Then an old man who was well informed came out. He looked at the monster in front of him, and then pointed at the monster and said, "This monster should be a dark dragon. After all, it is so big, it should be an ancient dragon. I didn't expect this ancient beast to appear here." After hearing what the old man said, the people around him became even more panicked. After all, the dark dragon is not something to be messed with. I didn't expect that they would encounter a dark dragon here and in such an environment. Then the expressions on these people's faces became even more sad, as if they would leave this world in the next second. After seeing their expressions, Bai Luo didn't know what to say for a moment. But what they didn't expect was that the dark dragon was actually very scared now. It's just that he can't express it with his own words. He has seen the chaotic power in Bai Luo's body, so he doesn't dare to do it. He has lived in this space alone for so long, and he didn't expect so many people to appear suddenly. Now these people are pointing their spearheads at him. So the nether dragon is naturally afraid in his heart, but he can't show it. Moreover, the nether dragon is sealed here and can't leave here at all. But after seeing Bai Luo's chaotic power, the nether dragon was still scared, and the seal in his body was also triggered. The seal of the nether dragon was actually triggered, which also attracted the attention of several major families. After all, this is not a small matter. After other sects discovered this matter, they immediately took it seriously and then quickly sent people to investigate the matter. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR published this novel for the first time. But because the distance was too far, they did not rush over immediately. And Bai Luo here is still thinking about how to deal with the monster in front of him. After all, the current situation is not optimistic. Gao Yangzu on the other side did not think about this, because in her opinion, the nether dragon seemed to be quite afraid of them. Moreover, after being here for so long, the nether dragon did not seem to have any intention of attacking them. On the contrary, when Bai Luo stood in front of it just now, the nether dragon even took a few steps back. This is not the kind of monster that kills people without hesitation. So Yangzu also stood up and said to Bai Luo on the side, I think we should think too much. This nether dragon does not seem to have any intention of hurting us, and he seems to be quite scared. After listening to Yangzu's words, Bai Luo also frowned and looked at the nether dragon in front of him. But Bai Luo is not sure now. After all, this nether dragon looks so big, and from what those people said just now, this nether dragon's ability is still very powerful. So Bai Luo knows that this matter must not be sloppy. But we don't know now whether this nether dragon has any ill intentions towards us. If we act rashly, I feel it will be dangerous. Gao Yangzu naturally knew this truth, but now they are in this situation. They don't have any good choice. Anyway, there is only one way ahead, and the only choice for them is to quickly deal with the big guy in front of them. So Yangzu also sighed, and then said to Bai Luo beside him, then I'll try it. After all, there is no other way to stay here. If we keep wasting time here, I'm afraid we won't be able to get out by then. After saying this, Gao Yangzu stood directly in front of the nether dragon. However, Gao Yangzu still kept a distance between himself and the nether dragon. After all, he didn't dare to joke with his own life. Gao Yangzu looked at the nether dragon in front of him and then took the initiative to speak. Are you a nether dragon? We accidentally broke into this place and we don't have any ill will towards you. Can you please point us away so that we can leave here quickly? After hearing what Yangzu said, the nether dragon was also extremely excited. Although he did speak human language. But because he hadn't tried this function for a long time, because no one had been to this place for a long time. Chapter 487, The Loosening of the Seal. So Minglang didn't know how to speak for a while, but he still tried to communicate with Yangzu and the others. After all, he knew that his current situation was not good. After all, he felt the power in Bai Luo's body and knew that Bai Luo was definitely not someone to be trifled with. That kind of power could make Minglang surrender immediately. So Minglang also tried to speak. I don't have any ill intentions. I just didn't believe that I appeared in front of you. If you want to get out, I can help you, but you can't hurt me. No one expected that Minglang would actually speak. So they couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. After seeing this situation, Gao Yangzu immediately laughed happily. She didn't have much hope before, but she didn't expect Minglang to be willing to help them. So Yangzu also nodded quickly. Don't worry, as long as you can help us escape from here, we will never hurt you. After all, we just want to leave here. After listening to Yangzu's words, Minglang couldn't help but feel relieved. He really didn't want Bai Luo to stay here. Minglang felt a little flustered when he saw Bai Luo. After hearing what Minglang said, the older man said to the people beside him in shock. This is Minglang. He almost destroyed the entire Bizhao at that time. Why is he so easy to talk to now? I feel that he is completely different from what everyone has said. Most people in Bizhao have heard of Minglang, so they also think that what the old man said is right. Originally, they thought that Minglang was a very difficult thing to deal with, but they didn't expect that he would be so easy to talk to now. And there is a sense of humility. Everyone was a little shocked by Minglang's attitude, but no one dared to say much. They only dared to mutter something below. Bai Luo on the other side said happily after hearing what Ming Long said. Then I'll trouble you. I hope you can quickly point us away. We need to leave here quickly. Ming Long nodded. After all, he didn't want Bai Luo and the others to stay here any longer. So he was eager to send them away quickly. And Ming Long knew where the way to leave here was. After that, Ming Long knew that it was another direction. Then he said to Bai Luo and the others, just keep going this way, and you will be able to leave here soon. This is just another space. You came from another space accidentally, so just walk this way and you can leave this space directly. In fact, Bai Luo still had some doubts in his heart. After all, he didn't think that this nether dragon was so easy to talk to, but now Bai Luo and the others had no other choice. After that, Bai Luo looked at Yangzu who was standing beside him. What do you think? Yangzu also hesitated for a while, and finally nodded, because she and Bai Luo thought the same thing. After all, this matter was going too smoothly, and they didn't expect that this nether dragon would be so easy to talk to. So Yangzu also had some doubts in her heart, and she was afraid that there would be other dangers over there. But now Yangzu also knew that they had no other choice, and this was the only clue for them to leave here. So Yangzu said to Bai Luo who was standing beside her, we have no other options. We can only try to see if it is feasible. Anyway, this is our only choice. We have to do this, whether we go or not. Bai Luo also felt that what Yangzu said was indeed correct, so he turned around and said to the people behind him, I think everyone has heard what Ming Long told us just now, but I won't force you, because I can't be sure whether Ming Long has lied to us or not. But to be honest, we really have no other choice now, so Yangzu and I plan to go there and try. We won't force you. If you want to come, come. If you are worried, don't come. After saying this, Bai Luo didn't say anything else. Then he and Yangzu walked in that direction. After seeing this situation, the other people were indeed very scared. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. But they also knew that among so many people, only Bai Luo and Yangzu were more reliable. If they didn't follow Bai Luo and Yangzu, they would just wait for death. If they stayed here, then someone followed them immediately. After that, these people followed Bai Luo and others in that direction. When Ming Long, who stayed here, saw this situation, he couldn't help but feel relieved. After all, he was still very happy that Bai Luo had left. He had sensed the terrible chaotic power in Bai Luo's body. If he kept Bai Luo here, he might be the one who would be unlucky. After all, he had been sealed here for so long, and it was already very miserable. He didn't want to cause any more trouble. Just when Ming Long was still happy that Bai Luo had left here, someone else came. But Ming Long was still clear about these people. The people from these major sects had noticed that the seal of Ming Long had loosened a little before, so this time they wanted to deepen the seal here. When Ming Long saw these people coming, he immediately had a fierce reaction. After all, these people sealed him here. These people did not waste time. After seeing the situation here, one of them spoke directly. The seal here should be a little loose. Since everyone has come here, although the nether dragon is still sealed here, we should deepen the seal to avoid endless troubles. After hearing what this person said, everyone nodded one after another. The nether dragon on the other side saw this situation and naturally became more angry. Then the nether dragon's reaction was very fierce. At the same time, the people from the several major sects who wanted to seal the nether dragon were also hurt by the nether dragon, and some of them were directly injured. But the windbreaker still had to continue, so these people had to bite the bullet. But during the reinforcement process, the nether dragon was not willing to give up at all, and kept resisting fiercely. This also made these people suffer a lot. People from several sects were injured to a certain extent. Everyone's expressions on their faces when they saw this situation were not good. But it just so happened that nothing else happened in the end, because the seal here was also reinforced. Chapter 488, The Hidden King. Fortunately, it was safe in the end. In fact, Ming Long did not benefit from doing this, because during the reinforcement process, his strength was suppressed. But Ming Long was angry, and he didn't want to let these people have an easy life. So Minglan was injured in the end, but Minglan didn't want them to have an easy life. Those people from the major sects had completed their missions and left here. On the other side, Bai Luo kept walking along the road just now, and soon found that they had escaped from that space. The whole world suddenly became bright. But this is not a familiar place, and Bai Luo seemed to have never been here. After that, Bai Luo looked at the surroundings, and found that it was actually a large desert. So they didn't have time to be happy, and then there were other things to deal with. But Bai Luo didn't know where this place was, so he didn't dare to act rashly for a while. So everyone fell into silence. Finally, the knowledgeable old man stood up. The old man looked at the surrounding environment, and then said to everyone, "If I remember correctly, this should be a 1,000-mile desert with no one. Although the environment here is indeed very bad, there is still a place to rest." Bai Luo, who was standing by, didn't expect that the old man knew so much. But Bai Luo quickly grasped the key point of the old man's words. A place to rest? Where is there a place to rest? I hope you can give me some pointers. After all, it's getting late now. We have to find a place to rest quickly, otherwise it will be more difficult for us to move around at night. The old man nodded and then said to everyone, "Everyone, come with me." Although Bai Luo and Ao Yangzu were a little skeptical, they had no choice in the end. Anyway, they all had to follow him. Although it was a bit dangerous, they still had to try it. Then the group followed the old man to another place. What Bai Luo and the others didn't expect was that there was indeed a good place to rest. There seemed to be some green plants here, and there was also a water supply next to it. Bai Luo didn't expect that the old man could actually find such a good place, and it was in such a desert. In addition, the old man had directly recognized the identity of Minglan before. So Bai Luo thought that this old man was definitely not simple. He looked unfathomable, but Bai Luo did not find any spiritual energy in this old man. Thinking of this, Bai Luo could not help but frown. The identity of this old man also made Bai Luo very curious. After all, the old man's knowledge was so profound. Could this be a hidden strong man? But now these are just speculations, and Bai Luo has no way to confirm. Since the old man himself did not say it, Bai Luo did not take the initiative to ask. If he thought too much, it might cause others to be suspicious for no reason. So Bai Luo did not say much in the end. Because the environment here is not bad, everyone rested here directly. After all, they also spent a lot of time in the space above, and everyone was really tired from walking around. But now they have found a place to rest, but many of them are now a little exhausted. After seeing this situation, Ao Yangzu on the other side finally had an idea. Because everyone is hungry here now, Ao Yangzu thought of the magic she had just learned not long ago. Ao Yangzu didn't think much about it, and then used her spiritual power to transform a lot of food. Bai Luo, who was standing beside her, was watching Ao Yangzu's operation, so he couldn't help but be a little shocked. He didn't expect that Ao Yangzu's skills had improved recently. After all, turning spiritual power into food requires a higher level of control over spiritual power. After that, Bai Luo was a little surprised and said to Ao Yangzu standing beside him, "Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. Not bad. I feel that you are getting more and more comfortable with the use of spiritual power now, which is indeed a great improvement compared to before." Ao Yangzu smiled. "That's natural, but I feel that I seem to be practicing quite smoothly recently. I don't know if it's because of the change of environment." After hearing what Ao Yangzu said, Bai Luo also helped to analyze it. In fact, the cultivation of the method depends on each person's attainments. This also shows that your comprehension ability has indeed improved a lot. But let's talk about this later. Let's distribute the food to everyone first. After all, everyone looks hungry. Ao Yangzu nodded and then distributed the food in her hand to everyone. They naturally saw this scene from the side. However, no one said much, but just silently marveled at Ao Yangzu's strength in their hearts. After all, the people who sat on this ordinary teleportation array in front should be ordinary people. They didn't expect Ao Yangzu to have such strength, which also shows that Ao Yangzu had hidden her strength before. So they didn't ask anything. Bai Luo saw that everyone had almost eaten, and then he said, since everyone has eaten and drunk enough, then everyone should rest in place at that time, and don't run around. Although we have found a place to rest now, it is better for everyone to stay away from the surroundings. After all, everyone doesn't know if there are other dangerous things around. After hearing Bai Luo's words, everyone nodded one after another. After explaining the things here, Bai Luo also leaned aside to rest. After all, Bai Luo was tired after running around for the past 2 days. He originally wanted to have a good rest, but he was awakened by the noise around him after a while. Gao Yangzu, who was standing next to him, also woke up at this time. Bai Luo saw the noise over there and found that everyone was very anxious and hurried. Finally, Bai Luo walked over. What's wrong with you? What are you doing here at night? Then a man inside also stood up and then said to Bai Luo in front of him very anxiously, someone is missing. He was fine before I went to bed, but when I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, I found that the person next to me was missing. I just looked around and found that I didn't see any trace of him. After hearing this, Bai Luo couldn't help but frown. After all, in this situation, it is not a good thing for someone to disappear. Chapter 489, Strange Situation. But Bai Luo had already told them not to run around, and they would not run around for the sake of their lives. Then Bai Luo looked at the people around him. Have you seen any trace of that person? Or is there anything wrong? After hearing Bai Luo's words, everyone shook their heads. Everyone was talking about it, and someone stood up and said, there is nothing wrong with what we saw before. Everyone is lying down to rest. And I still have some impression of that person. He is very timid. I don't think he would take the initiative to run around, but I don't know why he disappeared. After hearing this, Bai Luo's face was not good. After all, the situation is really difficult to handle now, because it is late now. In addition, they don't know the surrounding environment very well. But the disappearance of that person is very strange, and it happened at this time. Bai Luo was in a dilemma for a while. In the end, Bai Luo still said what he thought in his heart. After all, he couldn't let everyone take risks. The current situation is really too difficult to handle. If we take too much risk, it may cause harm to the people around us. Then don't panic, everyone. The situation is special now. Although I also know that we have to find that person as soon as possible. It is really too late now. Let's go to find him early tomorrow morning. As soon as Bai Luo finished speaking, Gao Yangzu stood up. Gao Yangzu looked at Bai Luo and then expressed her thoughts. I think we should find him in advance. Of course, I know that the current situation is very special, but if we don't find him as soon as possible, I'm afraid that his life will be in danger. We shouldn't go too far. If we are worried about any accidents when we go out to find that person, I think we can go to find him in a group of several people so that we can ensure the safety of all of us. Gao Yangzu paused for a moment and then continued. Otherwise, if we don't go to find him at night, there will be no such good opportunity after this period of time. After hearing what Yangzu said, Bai Luo couldn't help but pursed his lips. He naturally wanted to save that person, but he had his own considerations. But now Yangzu had already said so. In this case, Bai Luo felt that he could indeed give it a try. So Bai Luo nodded slightly and then asked Yangzu to make the arrangements here. Because he had already thought about it, Gao Yangzu also expressed his ideas very smoothly. Then everyone should quickly divide into groups, about 5 or 6 people in a group, and then everyone will go to find the missing companion in several ways. If you encounter anything wrong, everyone will quickly return to the original route. Anyway, ensuring your own safety is the most important thing. Although everyone was a little scared, they could only bite the bullet now. Gao Yangzu and Bai Luo did not form a group with 5 people. Instead, the two of them acted together directly. Because of safety issues, they did not go far away. They just looked for the traces of the missing person around here. Bai Luo and Yangzu went around here for most of the time, but did not find the trace of the other person. But they did not dare to go too far, so in the end the two of them returned to the original route. When they came back, they found that someone had returned earlier. Bai Luo and his friends went over to ask about the situation and found that they were the same as them and did not find anything wrong. After all, this was in the desert, so it was not very difficult for them to find someone. Since there was no trace of the missing brother in the vicinity, it meant that he was really not nearby. Then several teams came back. No one found the man. Gao Yangzu waited for a while and found that there was still a team that had not returned. After realizing this, Gao Yangzu couldn't help but frown. Why haven't people come back? Could something have happened? After hearing this, the group of people became more panicked. Bai Luo, who was standing aside, actually thought of this. He always felt that this matter was not very simple. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. So Bai Luo also hurriedly said to Yangzu, who was standing aside, I think this matter must have been calculated by others. After all, we just said that we should not leave too far, but now a team of people has disappeared. I think it is very likely that we have fallen into a trap. Gao Yangzu also nodded. Seeing the panic in the crowd, Gao Yangzu also took the initiative to stand up. Everyone, don't worry. Since this is the case, we already know that the surroundings are not safe, so now everyone stays where they are, and there is no need to look for anyone. Then Yangzu thought of the previous example of someone missing. That person did not leave here, but in the end he disappeared for no reason. So Yangzu thought of another way later. Considering that someone in the team has disappeared for no reason, I think it is very likely that someone has done something behind the scenes. So for safety reasons, I think we can take turns to stand guard. After all, everyone needs a rest. After listening to Yangzu's words, everyone also felt that this matter was indeed feasible. After that, they nodded one after another. This matter was also implemented very smoothly, and everyone took turns to stand guard. After all, the eldest sister also knew that this matter must be taken seriously because that person disappeared for no reason. However, something that Bai Luo and Yangzu did not expect still happened, because even if they selected people to stand guard there, people in the team continued to disappear. This made Yangzu and Bai Luo fall into silence for a while. After seeing this situation, Bai Luo then said to Yangzu beside him with some worry, obviously we have found people to stand guard, and everyone is very careful. Why is there still someone missing now? Hearing Bai Luo's words, Yangzu didn't know what to answer directly, because she also thought this matter was very strange. This is indeed very strange. After all, everyone's vigilance should be improved. Why do people disappear again and again? Obviously everyone is very careful. Bai Luo didn't know what to say for a while. Because he hasn't figured out this matter yet, everyone's suspicion is on the same point. But no one has figured out the reason. Then Bai Luo thought of a direction that shocked himself. Chapter 490, well prepared. He looked at Yangzu, who was standing by, and then said to her, could it be that there is something wrong with someone in the team? We are on guard to prevent other people. If there is someone in the team who has ulterior motives, I don't think we can prevent it. After hearing Bai Luo's words, Yangzu couldn't help but widen her eyes. Because Yangzu also felt that, if that was the case, it would make sense. Then Yangzu looked around hesitantly and found that everyone looked quite normal now. Then Yangzu also said to Bai Luo, who was standing by, if that's the case, then let's secretly observe who in our team is wrong tonight. After all, people in the team have been missing all the time. If that person wants to take action, he will definitely be exposed. Bai Luo nodded. Soon the night came. Bai Luo just squinted his eyes and didn't fall asleep immediately. Instead, he was always observing the situation around him. As expected by Bai Luo, in the middle of the night, someone suddenly stood up slowly. Then this person walked to the side of another person. The man's movements were very slow, and the person on guard didn't notice the movement here at all. The man didn't know what he put next to the sleeping person, and soon wanted to take the person away. After seeing this, Bai Luo stood up at this time. Then he called him directly. What do you want to do? Stop it. Bai Luo's voice was still very loud, and then everyone woke up immediately. The man didn't expect that he would be exposed suddenly, and then he quickly stepped back. Gao Yangzu also stood next to Bai Luo at this time. The man saw that he was exposed, and then he didn't plan to pretend anymore. Then he said it proudly. I didn't expect you to find out so quickly. I thought it would take some time for you to know that there was a spy in the team. After seeing this, Bai Luo also said directly, who are you? What do you want to do in our team? The man saw that his whereabouts had been exposed, and he didn't plan to hide from Bai Luo and others. Then he revealed his family. Zhao Zhen, have you heard of me? I'm a member of the Wasp Bandits, but it's too late for you to find out now. It's too late. Bai Luo had never heard of the Yellow Wind Bandits, so he didn't think it was anything special. After hearing what Zhao Zhen said, there was a lot of commotion in the crowd. Then someone stood up and said to Bai Luo, these people are notorious in the Forbidden Desert. They just bully ordinary people who have no power to fight back when they pass by. Everyone hates them, but they are doing well in this Forbidden Desert. Many times, no one can do anything about them. After hearing what this person said, Bai Luo couldn't help but frown. But Bai Luo was very worried now, because he didn't believe that this person could deal with them. But just as this thought came into Bai Luo's mind, a group of people surrounded him. It turned out that these were their helpers. Sure enough, Bai Luo underestimated them before. These people had their own reasons for introducing themselves, because there were already their people next to them. Moreover, in the past few days, people in their team have been missing. It must be that this person and the people outside are working together, so they can do things so secretly. After seeing this situation, Gao Yangzu, who was standing aside, immediately stood in front of the crowd. After all, she also knew that she needed to do this now. But when Bai Luo saw those people holding weapons in their hands, he couldn't help but frowned. Then he hurriedly said to everyone, everyone be careful, they are holding highly poisonous weapons in their hands. Don't be hurt by these weapons, otherwise your life will be in danger. After hearing Bai Luo's words, Gao Yangzu's face was not good. She didn't expect these people to use such underworld methods. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus book bar published this novel for the first time. Then Yangzu planned to use her spiritual power to deal with these people, but at this time Yangzu found that something was wrong. Because when her spiritual power was running, there was a sudden obstruction. And this obstruction suddenly appeared from her body. After realizing this, Gao Yangzu also quickly withdrew her hand. Zhao Zhen suddenly laughed. Do you think I don't know how strong you are? If it weren't for you, all these people would have been captured by me. It just so happens that I have made preparations in advance and poisoned you in advance, so if you want to use your spiritual power now, it is simply impossible. After hearing what this person said, the expression on Yangzu's face became even uglier. After all, there was no place for these people in front of her, so even Yangzu herself didn't know how long she had been poisoned. However, Gao Yangzu was not very worried, because these poisons were nothing to her. It was just a matter of time for Yangzu. But the situation was not good now, so Yangzu also hurriedly used some of her spiritual power. After that, she quickly formed a protective shield to protect everyone inside. But to ensure the safety of this protective shield, Gao Yangzu needed to use continuous spiritual power. But Yangzu is now using her own power to slowly purify the toxins in her body. Fortunately, this little poison is nothing to Yangzu. But at this moment, she was attacked immediately afterwards. Gao Yangzu on the side had never expected such a situation to occur, so she had no time to dodge. In the end, she was beaten back several steps by that man. However, after Yangzu realized this, she quickly hid in the barrier, because she knew that the current situation was not optimistic, and there were still several of their accomplices outside. But now these people couldn't get in at all. Because Yangzu had almost completely eliminated the poison in her body, it was quite easy to use her ability to protect everyone. Zhao Zhen on the other side was also trying to break through the barrier outside, but he failed after several attempts. Zhao Zhen was not angry when he saw this situation. He looked at Bai Luo, Gao Yangzu and others triumphantly from outside. Do you think you will be fine if you don't come out? I naturally have a way to get you out. Chapter 491, Safe and Sound. After saying this, Zhao Zhen then turned around and said something to his group of brothers. Gao Yangzu couldn't hear their conversation clearly, but her intuition told her that Zhao Zhen was going to do something unexpected. As expected, as Gao Yangzu expected, the group of people brought the missing people from their team. Not bad, not bad, it's still okay for now. At the same time, everyone panted and crawled and found a relatively safe place to hide temporarily. They were all sweating for what they had just experienced, and they kept thinking in their hearts, fortunately, they saved their lives. Thinking of this, those people tacitly raised their hands to wipe the sweat on their foreheads. Then, everyone coincidentally cast a meaningful look on the people standing not far away. The people they were looking at were Bai Luo and Ao Hangzhu. This time, there was a little more gratitude in their eyes. After all, these two people were their saviors. When he noticed their gazes, Bai Luo subconsciously returned a look in the direction of the crowd. At the same time, his hands were still constantly making movements to transfer spiritual power. Seeing the spiritual power being transmitted to the protective shield, everyone's hanging hearts finally gradually stabilized. No matter how bad the situation outside the protective shield was, no matter how chaotic the situation outside was, as long as everyone stayed inside the protective shield, they would be out of danger. At least their lives would not be endangered. Bai Luo's whole body strength had gathered at his fingertips. His hands were tightly clenched together, and strands of power burst out all at once, and his body was also wrapped in raging flames. Under the gaze of everyone, the protective shield was maintained by Bai Luo more and more tenacious, and the danger outside the protective shield gradually dissipated a lot. After about half an hour, the danger was finally lifted. Everyone wiped their sweat and whispered to each other with some relief. Because of Bai Luo's presence, they were all safe and sound. Some people also rushed to Bai Luo's side and expressed their gratitude to him sincerely. But Bai Luo's reaction was extremely calm. He waved his hand calmly and said calmly, "It's good that the problem is solved." While everyone was talking about Bai Luo's heroic behavior, they would occasionally look at Ao Yangzu who was standing beside him. In their eyes, Ao Yangzu was also a heroine. Soon, some people came to Ao Yangzu's side. They first walked back and forth beside Ao Yangzu, while still chattering. Such behavior made Ao Yangzu feel a little strange, so she glanced at those people. It is undeniable that this glance was indeed somewhat deterrent. Everyone immediately stopped talking and fell into silence. But someone tentatively took 2 steps forward to close the distance between himself and Ao Yangzu. Looking at their little actions, Ao Yangzu felt a little weird in her heart, so she simply turned around and looked at them straight. The man standing in the front swallowed his throat and then tentatively said, "Can we ask you a few questions?" Seeing the other party's cautious actions, Ao Yangzu felt even more strange. "Go ahead. We want to know what your real strength is," the man said, but his words were not full of confidence. When hearing this question, Ao Yangzu's expression changed subtly. At this time, her face looked extremely complicated, with various emotions mixed together, and the most intense one was doubt. "Why do you ask that?" Ao Yangzu asked in a slightly rising tone, with a sense of curiosity in her words. The man immediately became interested and deliberately pretended to be mysterious and said in a slightly raised tone, "The lethality of this black storm is very strong. I heard that it once strangled a half grandmaster, but through your behavior just now, I think your strength is also extraordinary, so I'm a little curious." Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 = 9 plus BOOK_BAR is the first to publish this novel. When he said this, the expression on that person's face was extremely sincere, and there was a feeling of admiration. He was indeed telling the truth. He had no bad intentions when Ao Yangzu asked such a question. He was just curious about Ao Yangzu's true strength, and he admired such a person with extraordinary strength. After listening to this explanation, Ao Yangzu's expression changed again, but her humility and low-keyness did not make her answer directly, and such a reaction cast a mysterious veil on her image. Everyone became more and more curious, and those people rushed forward and kept asking, "I think your strength must be very superb. Otherwise how could you defeat this black storm?" They said words of praise one after another, and the admiration in their eyes could no longer be hidden. Looking at the people surrounding her body, Yao Yangzu had to confess, but she was still not arrogant, but looked humble. In fact, I'm not as powerful as you say, I'm still a little distance away from the semi-grandmaster. She did not have the slightest sense of superiority. After hearing this reply, everyone's expressions were filled with shock. They exclaimed in amazement, such extraordinary abilities. After learning about Yao Yangzu's true ability, they felt that this woman was a legendary figure. The people inside the protective shield were safe, while on the other side, the people outside the protective shield were also complacent. The wasp was surrounded by his younger brothers in the center, and he held his head high, stood straight, and looked very proud. The corners of his mouth raised a very obvious arc, and then he said arrogantly, "Those people are really ridiculous. They are so self-righteous that they think this protective cover can protect them from danger. There are so many unknown risks in this place. They have been trapped in the protective cover and will never get out again in this life." As soon as the voice fell, the younger brother beside him immediately echoed, "Brother, what you said is indeed right. Those people can no longer escape from the protective cover. When they encounter any danger, they can only wait to die in the protective cover." This set of self-righteous words sounded very ridiculous, but no one saw the reality clearly, and no one reminded the wasp that things might not be so simple. So the wasp has lost himself in the echoes of the younger brothers, and he is very proud, and has a proud attitude of a winner. He laughed very ostentatiously, and even vowed, "Those people must have died in there. They still want to fight me." Chapter 492, the situation worsens. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a sound of anxious footsteps not far away, and a man's anxious reminder, "Boss, we have fooled new people again. Let's go over there quickly." Hearing this, the wasp directly forgot about the people who were in the protective cover. After all, there was a more tempting thing attracting him at this time, so why should he waste time with those dead people? Therefore, he left this place in 2 steps and 3 steps, ready to attack other people. At the same time, due to the black storm, everything outside the protective cover was chaotic and terrible. The gloomy wind kept roaring, and the wind rolled up the mud and sand, making the outside grey. Everyone could also feel an extremely huge impact force, which made the land under their feet shake constantly, and their bodies lost their balance, and kept falling forward, almost falling heavily to the ground. After nearly half an hour, the situation gradually improved. Everyone stopped running around, but was able to control their bodies, and stand firmly in place. The black storm has stopped. Someone shouted out, with a feeling of relief in his words. As soon as the words fell, someone echoed, "It has indeed stopped." After that, the group of people groped around and finally walked together. The power of this black storm is really too strong. Someone couldn't help but sigh. The fact is that, after experiencing this black storm, everything around was destroyed. The originally tall trees were also cut into 2 parts by the black storm. The stumps and branches were separated. The damaged flowers, plants, and trees were scattered on the ground. There were all kinds of gravel on the ground, and the originally neat road became muddy. Fortunately, they were under Bai Luo's protection, and did not hurt their lives. It can even be said that they survived the disaster. But before these people had time to celebrate, someone woke them up with a word, "Where are we now?" After hearing this, the smiles on everyone's faces disappeared instantly. They quickly shifted their gazes and looked at the surrounding scenes with some panic. Many people couldn't help but exclaimed, "Where on earth is this? We have never been to this place, and the surroundings are so unfamiliar. It seems that the black storm has swept us here. How could this be? The black storm is so lethal that we naturally cannot stay where we are, so we can only let it sweep us away. So now we are here." Those people looked around in panic, and there was more or less some confusion in their brows. What should we do now? Some people were already confused. We must find a way to leave here. Everyone was already in a mess, rushing around, trying to find the right way. Those who hit the wall one after another couldn't help but have a headache. This black storm destroyed a lot of things, and the original road can no longer be found. Where should we go? At this time, they were completely lost, and it was very difficult for them to find the right way again. Everyone tacitly stopped where they were, and no one dared to act rashly, let alone make a random decision. They looked at each other, and from time to time they would cast their sights on Bai Luo, hoping that he could lead them away. Bai Luo stood quietly in place, looking at the situation around him with a rather sharp gaze, while also analyzing the situation in a complicated way, trying to find the right direction. At this moment, Yao Yangzu, who was standing in the crowd, felt very uncomfortable. Her breathing became extremely rapid, and her panting was also very heavy. The person standing next to her immediately noticed the abnormality of her body, so he directly supported her with his hands, and then asked anxiously, "How are you?" Yao Yangzu raised her head with great effort. At this time, her lips had become extremely pale, and there was no blood on her face. Even her eyes became a lot more empty. Yao Yangzu's body kept shaking, and cold sweat kept oozing out of her pores, making her body temperature very low. Her limbs also kept shaking uncontrollably, and she looked very painful. Seeing this, everyone rushed over. Seeing Yao Yangzu's appearance, their eyebrows and eyes were also distressed, so they asked Yao Yangzu about her condition in a panic. At this time, she was no longer able to make any answers. She could only let her chest rise and fall violently and let her breathing accelerate. The poison spread in her body, making her face look very ugly, and the situation became critical. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. Hurry up and find a place for her to rest. Her condition is still not good. If the toxins are not discharged, it is estimated that her life will not be saved. A reminder suddenly came from the crowd. Everyone turned around and quickly made room for Yao Yangzu to sit down and adjust her condition. The toxins in her body are spreading constantly. Her current physical condition is not good. It will take some time to detoxify her. Just as everyone turned their attention to Yao Yangzu and brainstormed how to detoxify her, the old man who had not spoken for a long time seemed to have discovered something and said slowly, "I know where the right direction is." After hearing this, everyone hurriedly raised their heads and locked their eyes on the old man. They looked at the old man, as if they saw hope, with a feeling of full expectation. The old man winked at them, indicating that they could trust themselves completely. So everyone helped Yao Yangzu up again, and under the guidance of the old man, they tentatively groped forward. At the beginning, several people had to think for a long time every time they took a step forward. Because the situation in the center of the desert was unknown, even if there was a huge danger waiting for them ahead, they didn't know anything, so they had to be more careful every step. But it is undeniable that the old man's sense of direction is very good, and he did find the right way. Although this road is a bit bumpy, it is the only choice for everyone. They move forward one after another, and some people support each other, which is considered united. During this period, there will inevitably be strong winds. The violent wind swept everyone's body, and they could only hold on to things on the side to find a way out for themselves. Everyone helped each other and fought against this harsh environment together. The old man lived up to everyone's expectations and led everyone forward with his accurate sense of direction. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 493, Successful Escape. So it can be said that there were dangers everywhere in the process, but fortunately they did not give up easily. Soon, these people successfully left the center of the desert. The dusty situation gradually eased, and everyone's vision was no longer hazy, but a lot brighter. We finally left that dangerous place, someone said with great relief, and the smile on his face was also extremely bright. But the faces of others were more of a heavy feeling. Although this group of people have successfully left the center of the desert, people who know this desert know that the remote areas are the most dangerous places. The face of the person who was just happy suddenly sank, and the words he wanted to blurt out were swallowed directly into his stomach. At this time, a person said with a heavy face, "The danger has not been lifted yet. We stay here. We don't know how many dangers there are in secret. Don't slack off." These words of reminder and exhortation made everyone's heart hang. They looked around with some fear, feeling the endless dangers. The wind at the edge of the desert was even more violent. The wind mixed with mud and sand whistled past, like a sharp knife, scratching their cheeks. Those people tried their best to dodge, but under such a disaster, their strength still seemed too slim. After a lot of effort, everyone stabilized their bodies and found a relatively safe place to hide for a while. During this process, Bai Luo's expression was extremely complicated. He wanted to say something, but the time was not right, so he could only choose to act according to circumstances. The group of people groped forward, and each step seemed particularly heavy. The heavy feeling in their expressions never disappeared for a moment. At this moment, a strange sound suddenly came from not far away. "Congratulations on your successful escape from the center of the desert." This sounded very cold, and there was even irony in it. After hearing this, everyone's attention was attracted. They stood there stiffly, tensing their bodies, looking for the source of the sound in panic. The voice kept lingering in their ears, enveloping their bodies. No matter how hard they looked, they could not find out who was speaking. Not long after, the voice became even more piercing. "You have now arrived at the Forbidden Desert." The voice spoke word by word, and it seemed even more abrupt when it mentioned the 4 words Forbidden Desert. After hearing this, a shallow ravine suddenly appeared between Bai Luo's eyebrows. He glanced at the others around him with a look that was a concept. Those people were already frightened. They were dumbfounded, their tongues were like knots, and they could not say a word. Bai Luo's glance was also reminding them not to make any sound. After realizing this, those people hurriedly swallowed their throats, and then nodded repeatedly like chickens pecking at rice, indicating that they understood. They all knew clearly that no one was allowed to speak in the Forbidden Desert. If anyone spoke, they would be immediately teleported back to the center of the desert. These people desperately left the center of the desert that bound them. After finally arriving here, how could they be willing to go back? For them, being able to walk out of this desert alive is the best outcome, so they also clearly understand that they cannot violate this rule, otherwise there will be only one way to die. Based on this situation, they hurriedly raised their hands to wipe the cold sweat oozing from their foreheads, then took a breath, nervously followed Bai Luo, and continued to move forward. Since no one was allowed to speak, the scattered discussions disappeared, replaced by a deathly silence. The surroundings were so quiet that these people could hear each other's breathing. In this way, these people endured the boredom in their hearts and continued to move forward. But after half an hour, they still did not walk out of this desert. Driven by such a situation, many people's patience was exhausted, and there was more of a feeling of irritability in their hearts. In addition, this place was too boring, even to the point where they could not stand it. One person was ready to move. He looked around and patted others from time to time. The people around him were reasonable and knew the rules here, so they ignored him. Instead, they looked at him with a warning look. This look was not only for their own lives, but also to stop this person from doing the wrong thing. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. But even if others treated him with such an attitude, the man still did not understand how critical the situation was at this time, so he walked forward carelessly. His steps became extremely arrogant, and his face was more of a feeling of indifference. He secretly thought in his heart, "I don't believe that this forbidden desert is really so powerful. I just made a little noise. Will they take me away directly?" He blasphemed the rules of this desert and even wanted to provoke. So, he slightly curled the corners of his lips and looked around with a sarcastic look. The next second, his mouth opened slightly, and then he uttered a series of words slowly. "How long will we go?" After hearing these words, everyone's eyes widened involuntarily, and they looked in the direction of the sound with extremely surprised eyes. The next second everyone's eyes gathered on that person. At this time, the man didn't know what he was about to experience, so he held his head high and looked at the others with a proud face, as if he was showing off how capable he was. In an instant, there was a loud noise above everyone's head, followed by a gust of wind and rain. The man was obviously a little nervous and even wanted to dodge, but the silent desert did not give him a chance to escape. In just a blink of an eye, a hurricane swept over, and the man disappeared from everyone's sight in an instant. The others saw this situation with their own eyes, and their expressions were full of panic, and more of a kind of regret. Now that someone in their group had been brutally treated in front of them, they knew that this forbidden desert was no joke, so they became more careful. At the same time, many people expressed their opinions on what had just happened. They used typing to communicate. That person has been taken away. Should we go back and save him? Otherwise, he will not be able to get out of this desert by himself, and he will die. Chapter 494. Weird situation. Why save him? He deserved to be taken away. We finally escaped. Do we have to go back and die? Yes, he deserved to be taken away. I don't want to risk saving him. Everyone expressed their opinions, but the majority refused to go back to find that person. Obviously, in such a critical situation, most people still consider their own interests. They are naturally unwilling to go back and take risks, and they don't want to risk their lives for others. The strong wind around everyone's body is still whistling, and the wind and sand scratch their faces. The situation has become extremely dangerous. Under the influence of such a situation, these people naturally don't want to take risks. So, most people unify the caliber and think that they should just give up that person. Seeing the two words give up appearing more and more on the typing interface, the ravine between Bai Luo's eyebrows became more and more obvious, and even his expression became heavy and complicated. In fact, he was also hesitating about this matter. If he was alone, he would not ignore that person, but now there are so many people following him. If he decides to go back to save that person, these people have no choice but to follow him. Therefore, the decision is now in Bai Luo's hands. Based on this situation, those who want to give up that person lock their eyes with expectations and persuasion on Bai Luo, hoping that he can agree with their own ideas. At this time, Bai Luo stood there a little gloomy, watching the conversations of others with a cold look. So many people chose to give up. What should he do? In fact, Bai Luo understood. After all, these people finally got out of the dangerous situation. How could they be willing to take risks again? Perhaps giving up that person and saving others is the most correct choice for Bai Luo. But when he had this idea, he couldn't help but think of the picture of that person being swept away by the desert. When thinking of this, Bai Luo's expression became more complicated, and even his fists clenched involuntarily. Just when he was hesitating, his sight passed through Zhu. At that moment, his face changed subtly again. If it was her, she would not choose to give up a person's life easily. Bai Luo's heart kept hearing a voice. It was indeed the case. If it was Zhu, she would not let that person die, let alone let him go. When thinking of this, Bai Luo suddenly made a decision. I must go back to find that person. I must rescue him. Bai Luo roared in his heart. At this time, his face had become extremely firm. Bai Luo had made up his mind and was ready to go back to find someone. The next second, he turned around and took a big step towards the direction where the person was taken away. Seeing this, the others looked confused, but they couldn't help but catch up with Bai Luo in 2 steps. Where are you going? They asked in a typing voice, and the feeling of doubt in their faces became more and more intense. Bai Luo's face was very calm, and he said calmly, I'm going to save that person. Save him. Why? Everyone couldn't understand it at all, and even thought that Bai Luo was crazy. The others stared with their eyes wide open, hoping that Bai Luo could calm down. Bai Luo didn't make any answer to this question, and he didn't want to waste too much time. After all, this decision was made by him, and whether to follow his decision was in the hands of others. Seeing Bai Luo walking forward with big strides, those people quickened their pace and hurried to catch up with him, and then continued to persuade. We don't know how dangerous the situation in the center of the desert is now. We have finally escaped. Why do we have to go back and risk our lives? It's not worth regretting for him. If we are not so lucky this time and all die in the center of the desert, what should we do? Yes, being taken back to the center of the desert is also the man's own fault. We have no obligation to go back and save him. Their words seemed extremely pertinent, but no matter how they persuaded, Bai Luo did not waver, because he firmly believed that his choice now was Zhu's decision, so he insisted on his original idea. So he not only did not stop, but even kept speeding up his pace and quickly returned along the original route. Looking at Bai Luo's back, some people hesitated for a moment, and after weighing the pros and cons, they stopped moving forward and then stood still. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR published this novel for the first time. In their opinion, returning along the original route was extremely dangerous, and they did not want to lose their lives for this, so they chose to retreat. Bai Luo did not take this part of the people's abandonment to heart, because he was eager to bring that person back. At this time, there were not many people following Bai Luo, but even if there were not many people, they looked aggressive, and had no fear or retreat at all. But on the way back, several people found some strange situations. Because the temperature in the Forbidden Desert is very high during the day, the scorching environment and high temperature are enough to make them feel baked. But on the way back, they found that this road was not very hot. As everyone walked forward, they observed the surrounding situation with a confused look. Could it be that this is not the original route? But after looking around, they were sure that this was the road they had just come from. Why was the road not very hot at this time? No one could give any answer to this question. Even the old man was puzzled. He didn't know why this happened, so he was also confused. Wrapped in puzzled emotions, the group finally returned to the center of the desert with great effort. Their eyes quickly wandered around, and then they found a very familiar figure. The man was pushed forward by the hurricane, and was about to be swallowed up. Seeing this, Bai Luo and others ran over into steps, and before the man was swallowed up, they pulled his arm hard, and pulled him out directly. Although the man was a little surprised, he was grateful after being rescued. It is undeniable that Bai Luo and others arrived very timely, at least the man was not killed. After rescuing this man, Bai Luo and others also put an end to their worries. But the strange situation just now is still a knot in their hearts. They looked around, and found that the temperature here was not as terrible as they imagined. The old man also felt that it was a bit strange, so he found a place, and started to do experiments. Chapter 495 The Right Choice. Not long after, the old man looked up with some surprise. Are there any new discoveries? Everyone asked with some expectation, hoping to find the answer. The old man nodded slightly, and then said mysteriously, after testing, I found that there are actually some things protecting us in secret, so our situation is no longer as bad as before, all thanks to that person in the dark. When he said this, gratitude flashed across his eyebrows. After confirming this, everyone felt a little surprised, but a few seconds later, they nodded with relief, as if they knew something. In everyone's opinion, the person who did this in secret was Zhu. It seems that she has been helping us all the time. Someone sighed with gratitude in his words. This remark did not receive any doubt, and the others nodded in agreement. Even though they did not confirm whether their guess was correct, they all chose to believe it tacitly. Looking at the man who almost died, Bai Luo shook his head helplessly. He walked forward quickly and roughly checked the other person's physical condition. You are fine. He said something that made the other person feel extremely relieved. The man slowly raised his head. His eyes were already misty with tears. He was grateful and kept saying, thank you so much, otherwise I would have died here. Others did not take credit, but simply expressed a few words calmly. Bai Luo was also very rational. Since the people have been rescued, let's leave here quickly. We don't know what kind of danger we will encounter next. After hearing Bai Luo's proposal, the others quickly pulled their thoughts back, nodded repeatedly, and followed Bai Luo along a road. In the process of leaving, they also encountered many setbacks. But these people were very rational. Under Bai Luo's protection and arrangement, they went through a day and finally successfully left the desert. When passing the edge of the desert, some people whispered. Although their voices were very subtle, the general content was also heard by Bai Luo. Bai Luo knew that they were talking about those who did not follow them to rescue people. Those people have disappeared. Did they escape or die here? Someone asked quietly, with curiosity in his eyes, but more of a fear. Who knows? Everyone felt uneasy. However, at this moment, a cry of surprise suddenly came from the crowd. Look over there. As the voice fell, everyone's eyes were locked on that person. Looking in the direction of his finger, everyone found a mess not far away. There was black smoke spreading out from that place, and there was a blazing flame on the ground. However, the most frightening thing was that there were charred bodies next to the fire. Seeing this situation, many people were shocked. Why are there so many bodies here? Could it be that there was some unrest? Someone asked tentatively, but did not dare to move forward. Seeing this, Bai Luo first looked around the surroundings and made sure that there was nothing unusual before slowly walking to that place. Looking at Bai Luo's back, everyone held their breath and a sense of tension appeared on their faces. At the same time, the people who were just talking fell into silence. Bai Luo stopped, narrowed his eyes slightly, and observed the situation on the ground with an extremely cold look. The billowing smoke wrapped around his body, and there were pungent smells in the air, which made him feel a little uncomfortable. After observing for a while, Bai Luo's attention was attracted by some broken cloth beside him. At this time, the others who were encouraged by him also ran over. Those people observed for a while, and their faces were very surprised. Look at this clothes. Someone tiptoed forward, observing and speaking heavily. Everyone looked at it as he said, and their eyes suddenly flashed, as if they had discovered something terrifying. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus book underscore bar published this novel for the first time. This clothes looks so familiar, it seems that those people are wearing it. After saying this, the man took several steps back and did not dare to look at the body that was burned so badly that his face could not be seen. But what he said was indeed the truth. It was indeed the case. Even though the skin of those people had been burned beyond recognition and even the skin on their faces had been burned to a blur, their identities could still be identified through the remaining clothes. They were actually burned to death. These stuttering words were enough to express the panic in everyone's heart. They had only been separated for a period of time and had made two different choices, but now these two groups of people had parted forever. This was indeed something they had never thought of. How could they be burned like this? Someone said in horror. The temperature here is very high. They chose to stay here, so they would naturally encounter unexpected situations, so they were burned like this. Someone said with regret. Those people had been scorched, and their lives were left here. After knowing this, some people couldn't help but cover their hearts with their hands, feeling the violent beating of their hearts, and then whispered, "This is too terrible." Fortunately, I chose to go with Bai Luo at that time, otherwise I would have been burned to death. Many people nodded in agreement with these words. When making the decision, they were extremely hesitant. At that time, they thought that following Bai Luo might lead to death, and staying here might save their lives. But according to the current situation, following Bai Luo to rescue people is the most correct choice. At least under Bai Luo's protection, they can walk out alive. Now these charred bodies are enough to prove this. Looking at the bodies of those people, a shallow ravine appeared between Bai Luo's eyebrows again. He shook his head helplessly, and then sighed deeply. After a moment, he adjusted his mood and quickly changed the subject. Now that things have come to this, we don't need to waste time here anymore. Everyone should sort out their moods and leave with me. Bai Luo's appeal is very strong. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone immediately shifted their attention back. Under Bai Luo's protection, coupled with the old man's strong sense of direction, these people walked along a very correct path. Not long after, someone exclaimed, "Look there." Chapter 496. Setting up a stall. Everyone looked over and found that they had reached the end of the desert. We finally got out. Everyone looked at each other, their eyes full of excitement. After so many ups and downs, these people finally saw the dawn of victory and were finally safe. But before they rejoiced, everyone was still in fear. After all, when they thought that a small choice could directly determine their life or death, they couldn't help but feel scared. However, even though everyone had experienced so many ups and downs together and almost died, they also established a deep friendship through this experience. Some people walked up to Bai Luo, looking at him with admiration and gratitude, and even thanked him very directly. "It's really thanks to you this time, otherwise we wouldn't be able to get out of the desert. It was you who insisted on saving that person, otherwise we would regret it for the rest of our lives." Listening to what they said, and looking at the loyal expressions on their faces, Bai Luo did not feel proud of it. Instead, he nodded calmly, and said some words of admiration to them. The two parties are in a cooperative relationship this time. If they don't help each other, perhaps no one will be able to walk out alive. They should respect each other. These people already admire Bai Luo very much. Now Bai Luo's attitude towards them is so humble, and the relationship between the two parties has become closer. These people are from large and small sects. Now they know Bai Luo, so they naturally cherish this friendship. They put down all their airs and communicated with Bai Luo. They had a good chat. While several people were talking, Gao Yangzu made a move. Her tightly closed eyes slowly opened, and then she whispered something. Where are we now? After hearing this sound, everyone ran over and surrounded our Yangzu in the center. How are you? Do you feel uncomfortable? Some people asked anxiously, with a feeling of concern in their words. Gao Yangzu was surprised at first, then shook her head slightly. I'm fine. It's good that you woke up. Your body is so seriously injured, you have to take good care of it. Someone warned. Gao Yangzu nodded. After chatting for a few words, the group said, it's getting late. We have to go back quickly. Since you're awake, we don't have anything to worry about, so let's say goodbye. After that, those people bowed and left. The other party's series of actions made our Yangzu confused. She frowned in confusion and didn't know where to start. Inexplicably, Gao Yangzu also found that the old man had left. Before he left, he specifically warned our Yangzu, you are not from a big sect. If you encounter anything in the future, try to keep a low profile. After saying this, he disappeared without a trace. At this time, only Bai Luo and our Yangzu were left here. The atmosphere between the two was a little awkward. Neither of them spoke, and they seemed particularly stiff. After an unknown amount of time, Bai Luo slowly said, it's time for us to leave too. As soon as the words fell, Gao Yangzu stood up. In this way, the two left from here one after the other, and rushed towards the central area. On the way, many people who saw the two of them coming began to whisper. They pulled the people around them to discuss in a low voice, and the expressions of winking at each other were really too hateful. The voices of those people's discussions were very subtle, but the voices were like thorns piercing Bai Luo and our Yangzu's bodies, making them feel very uncomfortable. Not only that, many people rolled their eyes at Bai Luo and our Yangzu, and very directly revealed their disgust for the two of them. Looking at their faces, the two people were not moved by it, but instead put on a calm look. The two were also rational people, and they thought the behavior of these people was boring and ridiculous. In that case, why waste time with these meaningless people and things? So, the two of them tacitly chose to ignore those cold stares, and walked forward together. They didn't stop until they arrived at a place with relatively few people. Let's use the teleportation array to go directly to the central area, Bai Luo suggested. Gao Yangzu did not object to this proposal, but nodded in support. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. Then, the two of them used the teleportation array directly and disappeared from here in the blink of an eye. The next second, their bodies landed steadily in the central area. The central area is still prosperous, with countless people shuttling around, and there are also many shops around. Bai Luo walked aside with curiosity and observed a shop that was selling goods outside. Looking at the huge number, Bai Luo's eyes widened, and then he said in a very surprised tone, the price of this store is too expensive. It's a bit outrageous. He was right. If you want to open a store in the central area, you really need a lot of money. It can even be said to be outrageously expensive. But before Bai Luo could sigh, the voice of the system came to his ears. Please spend your own money to buy a piece of land. After hearing this, Bai Luo's eyes widened even more. He said in disbelief, are you kidding me? The price is so high, how can I afford so much money? He froze in place. The task of this system is really too outrageous. Now Bai Luo is penniless, how can he afford so much property? Isn't this embarrassing him? But no matter what he said, the system didn't say a word. It seemed that it was determined to let Bai Luo complete this task. Well, it seems that Bai Luo has no other choice except to accept his fate. There is really no such thing as a free lunch. Bai Luo held his forehead and sighed helplessly, but he quickly pulled himself out of such emotions. After all, the task had been issued, and he could not waste too much time on meaningless emotions. Instead, he should shift his focus to how to get money. He frowned and thought quietly. After a while, he thought of a good way to raise money. After weighing the pros and cons, he reluctantly took out some of his savings and exchanged them for some cola snacks. Looking at the cola snacks in his hands, Bai Luo whispered, "Whether you can make money depends on you." After that, he found a place with relatively more people to set up a stall. Naturally, his idea was very beautiful. Chapter 497, Bai Luo's stubbornness. Just as he was calling for business, some people came towards him aggressively. "Hey, why are you still setting up a street stall here?" A voice with a provocative tone entered Bai Luo's ears. These people were from the Lian Pavilion. Seeing Bai Luo here, they came over to deliberately pick on him. Bai Luo did not speak to their sarcasm, but simply turned a deaf ear to it. But his concession was useless. After all, those people were used to being barbaric, so they did not choose to let Bai Luo go, but kept approaching him, saying insulting words. Not only that, these people also forcibly collected money unreasonably. They rolled up their sleeves, kicked Bai Luo's things, and said ferociously, "You want to set up a street stall in our territory? Have you paid enough money? I see that you are a poor guy, and probably don't have much money. Today, I won't make things difficult for you. Give this amount and we will let you go." Although he said so, the amount given by that person was also an astronomical figure. It seems that they have made up their minds to deliberately embarrass Bai Luo this time. Looking at their rogue appearance, Bai Luo did not feel any fear, but felt extremely ridiculous. The behavior of these yellow-haired boys is really despicable, but they don't know how ridiculous they are, and they are still arrogant. Thinking of this, the smile on Bai Luo's face became even colder, with a little more irony. But in the current situation, if there is any trouble, it will not be a wise choice for him. So, he decided to obey these people and send them away. At this time, these people shifted their target to Aoyangzu, who was standing aside. They took a few steps forward at the same time, looking at Aoyangzu with a sizing look, and the look made people feel very disgusted and disgusted. "This woman looks pretty good," one person said meanly, and even wanted to reach out to hook Aoyangzu's chin. Aoyangzu reacted very quickly and dodged directly. Her rejection was already very obvious, but the man didn't realize how disgusting he was. Instead, he became interested and continued to say, "This woman is quite strong-willed. She's just what I like." Others also quickly agreed, saying provocative words. This group of people are completely like-minded. Disgusting. How could Bai Luo endure it when they spoke so brazenly to Aoyangzu? He had been silent all the time, but this time he stood up directly and clenched his fists tightly, looking aggressive. It was easy for him to deal with these scoundrels, since they didn't leave him a way out. Don't blame Bai Luo for being rude to them. Bai Luo was about to start scolding, but suddenly he found that half of the people on the street suddenly fainted on the ground. It happened too suddenly, and Bai Luo was confused for a long time, not knowing what the reason was. Aoyangzu was also like this. She was very surprised and said, "Why did those people suddenly faint?" Bai Luo shook his head slightly. "I don't know what happened. Is there something wrong with the air here?" The two speculated. In order to prevent the two of them from being affected, they hurriedly left the place. At the same time, an elder of the nearby Lian Pavilion felt this breath. "What's going on?" he asked anxiously, and stood up directly. He felt fear, so he rushed out of the door and rushed to the direction where the breath came from. The elder was eager to find out the reason for the matter, but when he arrived to check, Bai Luo and Aoyangzu had already left in advance, so the elder just came up empty-handed. After that, Bai Luo suddenly found that his legs were shaking constantly. He gradually lowered his eyes and then noticed that the ground under his feet was shaking constantly. Looking at this situation, the feeling of confusion in his eyebrows became more and more intense. What on earth is going on? Bai Luo kept thinking in his heart. Then, he looked at Aoyangzu, who was standing beside him, and asked tentatively, "Do you know why the ground is shaking?" Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 = 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. Gao Yangzu shook her head slightly and said helplessly, I don't know what's going on. I've never experienced this before. Both of them looked at a loss. Bai Luo slowly squatted down and gently touched the ground with his fingertips, feeling its violent shaking, and felt more and more weird in his heart. Gao Yangzu also followed the research, hoping to find some clues. But after a long time, the two had no new discoveries, and they didn't know what the reason was. Under the influence of such a situation, the emotions of the two people became more and more complicated, and the most confused was the doubt. But this research was not fruitless. Bai Luo found that there were many crystal agates on the ground. Why are these things there? Such valuable things should not appear here. He frowned tightly and said in confusion. At this time, Bai Luo's body was surrounded by a feeling of confusion. Looking at the crystal agate on the ground, his feet could not help but stop, and his eyes became serious as he looked at the ground. He wanted to figure out why this strange situation happened, so he wanted to study it carefully. But before he squatted down, Gao Yangzu said anxiously, I think it's very unsafe here. Let's leave here for now, and study these things slowly later. At this time, Gao Yangzu felt that the situation was too strange, and the strange feeling in her heart became stronger and stronger, so she wanted to leave here urgently, to prevent the two of them from encountering an accident. She might be persuading Bai Luo in her words, hoping that he could listen to her advice. But Bai Luo was also a stubborn person, and this matter was too strange. If he didn't crack it, he would feel like a stone was blocking his heart. So he didn't agree to Gao Yangzu's arrangement, but said firmly, I must study it carefully. Seeing the other party's stubborn look, Gao Yangzu frowned more and more, and her face became extremely ugly, with more of a speechless feeling in her expression. Bai Luo squatted down and carefully studied the crystal agates on the ground. The other party made such a choice, and Gao Yangzu had no other choice but to wait. During this period, a very cold wind suddenly blew, followed by a breath that made people feel extremely weird. The breath was mixed with low temperature, which was a bit cold, and naturally made people feel a little scared. Chapter 498, Bai Luo's Stubbornness, Part 2. The current situation already made people feel uneasy, and suddenly there was an inexplicable aura. How could they not be alert? Gao Yangzu quickly shifted her sight, and used her alert eyes, to observe the surrounding situation, fearing that there would be an unexpected situation. Bai Luo also felt this, but his reaction was still calm. He just lowered his voice, and said to Gao Yangzu, don't worry. At this time, Bai Luo opened his hand, and found that a blue diamond crystal appeared in his hand. The crystal was particularly dazzling, refracting the light shining on its surface, which looked very dazzling. Gao Yangzu was a little confused. However, at this time, Bai Luo felt a surge of spiritual power in his body. Along with this spiritual power, his body temperature was constantly rising, and even his muscles became much tighter. The power kept shuttling from head to toe, and the spiritual power kept becoming abundant, and Bai Luo's limbs became much stronger. But such changes happened in his body, and Gao Yangzu, who was standing aside, did not feel it at all. At the same time, Gao Yangzu's attention was attracted. She opened her eyes wide in surprise, then pointed to a place in front of her, and said anxiously, look there. As soon as the voice fell, Bai Luo also hurriedly looked in the direction of the other party's finger. The next second, a shadow appeared in the direction they were looking at. The shadow shuttled quickly, moving so fast that it was impossible to catch it tightly. Bai Luo and Gao Yangzu looked at each other, and then tacitly chose to follow it in 2 steps. When they were about to catch the shadow, a loud and sharp sound suddenly came to their ears. The sound was very harsh and sharp. What's more, the current situation is so tense, so when the two heard this sound, their vigilance was directly mobilized. Along with the appearance of the sharp sound, there were bursts of rustling sounds from the bushes next to them. The two people quickly shifted their sights to catch the situation. The next second, many hidden arrows were shot out from the bushes. The moving speed of those hidden arrows was extremely fast, like a beam of light, flying through the air, and flying straight towards Bai Luo and Gao Yangzu. Bai Luo's reaction was also very fast. He tapped the ground with his toes, and with this little bit of strength, his body lightly soared into the air. turned a circle in the air, and then kicked the hidden arrow directly, breaking it in half, and falling to the ground. The hidden arrows kept shooting out, and Bai Luo did not forget to protect Iangzu behind him while defending himself. No matter how fast the impact of the hidden arrows was, Bai Luo could cleverly resist it, and even directly catch it, and then break it. Such sneak attacks had no lethality to him at all. Iangzu also took the lead, and the two cooperated tacitly, knocking down all the sneak attacks that flew out from the dark. After a burst of hidden arrows, Bai Luo and Iangzu had successfully ended. But the guy hiding in the dark who wanted to attack the two people did not restrain his edge, but became more aggressive. In the next second, Bai Luo and Iangzu felt the temperature around them rising continuously. Then, flames shot out from the dark. Be careful. Bai Luo immediately reminded, and his eyes became extremely cold. He hurriedly moved to another place and easily avoided the attack of the flames. The ball of fire fell heavily on the ground, directly igniting the things on the ground, and the raging fire also burned up, and the scene became extremely chaotic. The temperature of this flame is extremely high. If it touches the skin, then this person will be instantly reduced to ashes. Obviously, the person who attacked the two people in secret did not think of leaving any way for Bai Luo and Iangzu to survive. After realizing this, the two people became more vigilant. Seeing the hidden weapons flying out from the dark, Bai Luo and Iangzu also reacted quickly. Even though the opponent's sneak attacks were non-stop, the good thing was that Bai Luo and Iangzu were very strong, and their bodies were extremely flexible, so they could successfully dodge before the hidden weapons touched them. Under the accumulation of various factors, Bai Luo and Iangzu did not suffer any damage from the hidden weapons, but successfully avoided all of them. After a few minutes of stalemate, the guy who attacked in secret had been defeated. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR released this novel for the first time. When he was sure that the situation was no longer dangerous, Bai Luo's eyes became extremely sharp. He clenched his fists tightly and looked in the direction of the hidden weapon with an angry look. At this time, a raging flame had burned around Bai Luo's body, and he was also wrapped in anger. He stared at the guy in the dark fiercely, and then roared, "You can only attack in secret, what else do you have? If you have the ability, come out openly." After cursing, Bai Luo smiled coldly again, and his words and actions were full of sarcasm. He did this to make the other party come out quickly. He wanted to see who the person who attacked in secret was. But this trick had no effect on the other party. Even though Bai Luo's sarcastic words were so direct, the person hiding in the dark still did not show his head, but just said, "Do you think you have any ability? You almost died from my sneak attack." He insulted Bai Luo with words, and fought back with words. The two people confronted each other, both of them looked aggressive. At this time, Iangzu stopped Bai Luo. She deliberately lowered her voice and said, "Don't go out first, so as not to mess up the situation." After hearing what Iangzu said, Bai Luo frowned slightly. Then, Iangzu waved her arm slightly and turned on invisibility. "You wait here first, I'll use invisibility to check it out." After that, she was ready to go out directly. The next second, Bai Luo reached out and grabbed her arm to stop her. He would never let Iangzu take this risk, let alone let her go alone. But Iangzu was also a stubborn person. Later, she secretly fought back. About half an hour later, Iangzu finally rushed back. At the same time, she also brought back a lot of things. Iangzu threw those things on the ground and looked at Bai Luo. Bai Luo was shocked. His first reaction was not to go to see the magic tools and alchemy furnaces that Iangzu brought back. Instead, he said in a tone that was blaming, but more of a pity, "You still went?" Chapter 499, Purchasing Land. Seeing Bai Luo's heavy look, Iangzu did not answer directly, but said, "These are all the things I brought back from there." As she spoke, she showed the magic tools and alchemy furnace. Bai Luo sighed and said helplessly, "Don't do this again in the future. What if you encounter danger?" Seeing the other party's worried face, Iangzu had to compromise. She nodded and agreed to the other party's words. After that, the two began to study each other's identity through the clues they had obtained. But the man was too mysterious, and the two had no clue. In desperation, the two of them could only continue to move forward. Half an hour later, as the two were moving forward, Gao Yangzu still felt that Bai Luo should buy a piece of land first and couldn't waste time like this. Bai Luo, I think we should buy a piece of land first. What do you think? Gao Yangzu suddenly spoke and asked Bai Luo again, wanting to hear Bai Luo's opinion and what Bai Luo was thinking. Bai Luo knew that Yangzu's idea was very good, but this land could not be bought just like that. They had tried before, but all failed. Now it was not so simple to buy land. It sounded simple, but it was so expensive. Where would he get the money? I also think what you said makes sense, but the land is so expensive. How can we have so much money to buy it? Bai Luo was confused and didn't know how to solve this problem. He knew in his heart that only buying land was the best solution. It was useless to continue like this. But it was not that he didn't want to solve it, let alone buy land. It was really that he had no choice. How could he buy land without so much money? Bai Luo frowned and thought about what to do about this matter. When Yangzu said this, she had been thinking about how to buy land. The two did not stop and kept walking forward, and they were also thinking about how to solve this problem. Bai Luo's eyes were always observing and thinking. He was always thinking about how to get so much money to buy land. Suddenly, Bai Luo thought of a way. Since the land in the central area is so expensive, why not buy a piece of land in a remote place first, and then buy land in the central area when you have a little money? This is really a good idea. Bai Luo felt that he was really smart and this method was really good. He quickly told Yangzu his idea. I know what to do. Bai Luo excitedly began to tell Yangzu his idea. Since the price of land in the central area is really too expensive, why don't we buy a piece of land in a remote place first and wait until the operating profit is almost enough, then move to the central area, right? Bai Luo told his plan and thought that this idea should be very good and Yangzu should agree with his idea. Sure enough, after Bai Luo finished speaking, Yangzu also began to nod, thinking that this method is feasible and is a better method for now. What you said makes sense. A remote place should be much better than directly in the central area. We should be able to afford it. Yangzu also thought so. After Yangzu agreed with his point of view, Bai Luo decided to buy a piece of land in a remote place first, and then change it when the time comes. Then it's decided. Let's go to a remote place and ask what the price of land is. Bai Luo took Yangzu and started to go to a remote place. Bai Luo didn't know the price of land in remote areas, so he planned to go to a random place with Yangzu to ask about the price of land. The two soon came to a relatively remote place. After observation, Bai Luo felt that this place was still very good, and it was okay to buy a piece of land. I think this place is good. I'll ask about the price of the land here later. Bai Luo said this to Yangzu, and Yangzu nodded and agreed with Bai Luo's statement. In this case, the two had nothing to hesitate. Bai Luo found someone and asked about the price of the land here. I want to buy a piece of land here. May I ask what the price of land here is? Bai Luo asked the person selling the land here about the price here. Hearing Bai Luo's question, the person at the sales office looked up and saw Bai Luo and Yangzu. He thought it was someone else, but when he saw Bai Luo and Yangzu, the person at the sales office immediately lost his good face. You guys want to buy the land too? The salesperson rolled his eyes, not looking at Bai Luo and Yangzu, and then took out a price list. The prices are all above, you can check it out for yourself. After giving the price list to Bai Luo and Yangzu, the salesperson began to busy himself with his own business, not planning to pay attention to the two, nor to introduce them. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus BOOK_BAR first releases this novel. The two did not care about this phenomenon. After all, it was normal for them to be looked down upon here with their identities. After getting the price list, the two began to look at it. At first glance, Bai Luo and Yangzu were shocked. Isn't this supposed to be a remote area? Why is the price of the land so expensive? Is it a mistake? This shouldn't be the case. The two looked at each other, and Bai Luo turned to ask the salesperson. Excuse me, are you mistaken? Isn't this a remote area? Is the price of the land so expensive? This time, the salesperson looked up at Bai Luo, sneered, and then answered his question. You said it yourself, this is land. Figure out what you want to buy, it's land. What's wrong with remote areas? Land in remote areas is also valuable, not everyone can buy it casually. The person at the sales office rolled his eyes again. If you can afford it, buy it. If you can't afford it, leave quickly and don't affect my work. Hearing the other party say this, Bai Luo and Hangzhou understood that the land in remote areas is not cheap, but relatively expensive. But even if the price is very high, what else can they do now? In addition to buying the land, they have no other choice. That's it, we can only buy it now. Think about it on the bright side, at least it's much cheaper than the central area. Bai Luo comforted Hangzhou, and also comforted himself. In the end, Bai Luo decided to buy this land in a remote area, even though it was not cheap either. Hangzhou heard Bai Luo say this, and didn't say anything, nor did she refute him. She thought that, since Bai Luo had thought it through, he should buy it. Okay, it's up to you, then buy it. Bai Luo turned and said to the person at the sales office, hello, we have bought this land, how do we pay for it? Chapter 500, Purchasing Land, Part 2. Even though they were looked down upon, Bai Luo and Hangzhou were polite and did not let this matter affect them. They were used to being looked down upon here. When the people at the sales office heard Bai Luo say that he would buy the land, they were surprised for a moment and then immediately resumed their mockery. Land in remote areas is really cheap now, and anyone can buy it. After saying that, they still took out the sales contract. What are you standing there for? Sign it. Seeing that Bai Luo did not move, the people at the sales office reminded him again, asking him to sign quickly, and then he could leave. After paying the money, Bai Luo took the pen and started signing at a reminder, and signed the contract bit by bit according to the reminder. Soon, the contract was signed, and the staff at the sales office reminded Bai Luo to pay the money. Finally, everything was over, and the land belonged to them. Finally, I bought a piece of land. Hangzhou felt relieved, thinking that it was really a lot of twists and turns to be able to buy this piece of land, and it was not easy to buy it. Bai Luo felt the same way. It was not easy to buy the land. Now that they had bought it, they were relieved. Next, we will build an internet cafe on the land. Bai Luo looked at the land he had bought and began to imagine what the internet cafe would look like after it was built. He could not help but feel happy. He was finally going to succeed. Hangzhou also stared at the land she had bought. She felt that they were really amazing. They had bought the land so quickly. The two did not waste time and started to work on the internet cafe. Soon, they built an internet cafe on the land they had bought. Now in the internet cafe, Bai Luo looked at their achievements and felt deeply moved. Yes, it's like this. This is what the Wang Bei in my mind looks like. Bai Luo excitedly told Hangzhou that the internet cafe he had in mind looked like this. Hangzhou understood why he was so excited. She was also very happy. After all, it was the result of their hard work. The internet cafe is ready. Can we open it tomorrow? Hangzhou sat on a chair to rest. Looking at the internet cafe that was already open for business, she asked Bai Luo what he thought. Bai Luo nodded. He thought so too. Since the internet cafe was ready, it could be open for business immediately. He didn't want to waste time. Yes, we will open it tomorrow. Bai Luo stood up and looked at the situation in the internet cafe excitedly, imagining that the room would be full of people. After the discussion, the two of them were ready to rest. In the internet cafe, 2 rooms were specially cleaned up for them to rest. The two went back to the room to rest. The next morning, the internet cafe opened for business. Bai Luo and Hangzhou had already prepared for the first day of business to be full, but soon the whole day passed, and the internet cafe was still very deserted. It can be said that there was basically no one. Bai Luo didn't know what the reason was. Why did this happen? Even if it was not full, there shouldn't be no one coming, right? What's going on? Sitting in the store, Bai Luo asked Hangzhou. He didn't know what Hangzhou thought, and whether she knew the reason. Hangzhou shook her head. She didn't know what the reason was. Why didn't anyone come? Seeing that there was someone at the door, Bai Luo got up and went out to check, trying to figure out what was going on. When he arrived at the door, Bai Luo found that there were indeed people on the street outside the door, but no one went in. How could such a store suddenly appear here? Yes, it suddenly appeared, and I have never seen it before. What does this store do? Everyone was talking about the internet cafe, but no one went in. It turned out that everyone was just curious about this internet cafe that suddenly appeared, but no one knew how this internet cafe suddenly appeared, and no one knew what this internet cafe did. It was precisely because no one knew that no one would rush in. Bai Luo stood at the door, listening to everyone's discussion, and he understood what was going on. It seems that these people should not know what their store does, so they don't go in. They are just curious, but they don't go in. This is definitely not okay. We must find a way. We can't have no customers. Without customers there will be no turnover. Bai Luo quickly started to think of a way. Everyone can come in and take a look. We are an internet cafe, used to play games. It doesn't matter if you don't understand. Come in and learn about it. You will definitely like it. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus underscore. Don't miss it. If you pass by, come and have a look. You can give it a try. Bai Luo stood at the door and began to solicit customers, just hoping that someone would hear what he said and come in to try it out. Otherwise, if it continues like this, no one will come in to try it out, and there will be no sales on the first day of business. Moreover, it was so deserted on the first day, and it was unknown whether anyone would come to patronize their internet cafe in the future. In the long run, wouldn't it be a loss? Hearing Bai Luo soliciting customers like this, Gao Yangzu did not refute. There must be someone who will take the risk, otherwise their internet cafe will really be in trouble. Even after hearing Bai Luo say this, no one went in. They were just curious. They didn't understand what game Bai Luo was talking about at all, and they would not go in easily. If no one went in, they would have no customers. Bai Luo was already anxious, thinking about how to seize the time to find customers to go in and take a look. What does this internet cafe do? What are the games? Someone finally asked. Bai Luo hurriedly prepared to answer, but before he could open his mouth, he turned around and saw that the person asking the question was actually the disciple of Lian Pavilion. You know, there was nothing to talk about between them, and this person looked like he had bad intentions. Bai Luo's first reaction was definitely not to entertain him. After seeing that it was him who asked the question, Bai Luo didn't say anything or answer him. He was thinking about his own questions. Why? Why don't you answer the questions as a boss? Don't you want to receive guests? The disciple of Lian Pavilion stepped forward and looked at Bai Luo and started to ask questions. It was obvious that he didn't come to experience the store. Bai Luo certainly saw his purpose. This disciple of Lian Pavilion was looking for trouble. What should he say to enter the store? It was obviously nonsense. But facing his question, Bai Luo couldn't help but answer. So many people were watching. If he didn't answer, who would go to their internet cafe in the future? I want to go in and try it. Do you accept the game you mentioned? The disciple of Lian Pavilion directly stated his needs and wanted Bai Luo to take him in to experience what the game Bai Luo mentioned was. Of course Bai Luo didn't want to agree. What a joke. He was trying out the game. He was clearly here to mess things up, wasn't he? But was there any evidence for Bai Luo's thinking? The disciples of Lian Pavilion looked at the shop in front of them and kept observing it. They also wanted to go in and take a look at what this shop was doing. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.